here in the United States this week. Police are now looking for someone who apparently has barricaded himself in a building with all sorts of threats being made. Frederico Whitfield has been watching this story unfold. Fred, update our viewers on what we know right now.
Building 44, which happens to be the building where the Communications and Tracking Development Lab is located and where it is now on lockdown, is where the reports originated. That building on lockdown after reports indicated that witnesses saw a man with a gun in that building there at the Johnson Space Center. And as a result, police have responded. They have the lockdown underway. We don't know exactly how many employees this is affecting right now. But we are hearing that reports are coming into police from employees in other buildings on the ground are also being told now to stay inside because they're still trying to locate the whereabouts of this alleged gunman. According to one of the spokespersons from Johnson Space Center, it has also been reported that eyewitnesses say they heard at least one gunshot being fired in Building 44, but no reports of any injuries at this point right now, Wolf.
And this is all unfolding over at the Johnson Space Center. One of our affiliates, KTRK, has a helicopter pilot flying over. He's narrating what he's seeing right now. Let's listen in briefly.
Push back to 1,000 feet and a mile in compliance with the SWAT situation. So we are still relatively close to the building, circling just probably a quarter mile from the building at about 800 feet.
Okay, were they warning you that perhaps might take place? I had thought you had indicated that earlier.
Yes, that is a fact. Once it officially becomes a SWAT situation, they will notify the pilot, and then we will have to talk to Ellington Tower. Okay. And just abide by what they tell us to do in the tower over at Ellington Field.
Now, this complex, boy, is quite large, of course, and it is just about the size of Kennedy Space Center over there and just off near Orlando. NASA, of course, housing much of its engineering staff here at JSC, and for 4 decades it has become, the JSC has really led the nation and the world in continuing exploration of the heavens. And of course, this is certainly not what JSC, the kind of attention that it seeks. It's always been trying to provide the good, positive exploration attention, which it is long seeking after. And of course, certainly something like this is not something you want after the Lisa Nowak incident, which took place a number of weeks ago. So the perimeter of the building still has been circled, and they are watching it very closely. Tom Cook, you're as well, is quite familiar with JSC and the operations there, and we've covered this for years. Certainly not what JSC wants at this point, but it's still quite frightening when you have a situation like this. You have Building 44 locked down, and essentially the entire complex locked down. You wonder what kind of person they're looking for inside.
Frightening anytime, Art, but in light of the events that have happened in the past week, especially of concern for the people down there this afternoon. Let me give you a wider view and explain exactly what we're talking about. For those people that live in and around this area, very familiar with the Johnson Space Center and where it's located to the southeast of Houston. And again, I apologize because I'm not all that familiar with this chroma key board behind me. But again, this is the city of Houston to the northwest. Oh, you see it here at the top of your screen right there. To the southeast, here's the NASA community right here, Galveston Bay, if you will. Let's see, there it is, to the east of there. Now, if I zoom in here, I'll show you exactly where this is located. For those people that are familiar with Space Center Houston, that is the hands-on learning center that thousands of people go to every year. And that is the point from where tours of the Mission Control Center, most people know about Mission Control Center, or the Space Vehicle Mock-up Facility at JSC, those are where the tours originate at the Space Center Houston, and then go into the Johnson Space Center for those tours of Mission Control. There are little buses that take you in there if you go to the Space Center Houston. And as I zoom in, you'll see that the buses actually go right on this street right here, right past this building. Now, this is the building we're talking about. As ABC producer Gina Sinceri explained to us just a few minutes ago, this is a satellite tower building. I think she described it, but in any case, this is where it's located right here. You see, this is the perimeter of the building here, and the police cars are out in that field surrounding it. I go to a wider shot once again, you get an idea of where NASA is. And again, Art, I can zoom in a couple of times here and show you that NASA Road 1 is up here at the top of your screen. Excuse me, NASA Road 1 is right here on the bottom of your screen. This is Space Center Boulevard. So those people from around here are very familiar with the location of the Johnson Space Center. But again, that building is right in the middle of the Johnson Space Center complex.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom Cook, giving us a wider perspective of where this building really is in the center there of the complex. But somewhat rural in a way. I mean, it at least appears that way, of course, but still in the center. There's just a lot of land out there that JSC has. Cynthia Cisneros, I understand, is on the phone. Cynthia, can you hear me?
I sure can, Art.
Okay, Cynthia, what can you provide, at least from your vantage point, what you're able to see?
Well, Art, we just now arrived to the JSC campus ourselves, and all traffic is being diverted toward the Rocket Park area. That, of course, is that large park in the front of NASA that has the spacecraft in the front as part of the museum. That is where we are being diverted right now. We are not being allowed onto the JSC campus. But as Tom Cook was speaking before, Building 44 is more or less in the center of the JSC campus. We do know that Houston police are on the scene. In fact, they were passing us on the Gulf Freeway as we were heading southbound toward NASA. We saw several units passing us with their lights on, their sirens on, that is, speeding toward JSC. There are several cars that are already here. We've seen an ambulance come in towards the campus. We don't know if that is as a precaution. We cannot, there is no confirmation yet as if there are any injuries here on the campus or not. And also, there's no confirmation on whether or not the person that they are looking for right now, what type of weapon is involved. This is all very much a ongoing situation out here. Information, confirmed information coming to us is happening at a slower pace. One would assume that NASA would want to be sure of all the details before they release them, but this is very much a situation that does have people here on edge. They are taking precaution as people are entering JSC. But as a footnote, as most of us in the media know, but many in the public may not, but to enter the NASA complex, you, of course, must show your identification. There is a possibility that your items will be searched. You cannot just walk on to the campus, if you will, without showing some sort of identification. And also, as an employee, employees would have a badge that they would have to show. And again, they have the possibility of their items being searched at any time. So that is something, if many people wondering how a weapon, possibly a weapon brought on campus, that is certainly questions that we are looking at right now, Art.
Okay, Cynthia, we appreciate the report. A quick question here as you stay online with us. Have you seen any SWAT members in that area?
Of course, this situation has been going on since about 1:30 this afternoon when HPD first received their call. And Houston SWAT team was called out as a precaution to get the situation under control. So they had been here on the campus for well over an hour, 2 hours, that is. So those vehicles are already in place. That situation is in place right now, as we mentioned, toward the center of the JSC campus, which is where Building 44 is located. We, of course, are on the outskirts of the campus, right off the NASA Road 1 at Rocket Park. So we do not have that vantage point from the ground, that is, to see those SWAT vehicles, the members of the SWAT team, those highly trained members, as they would be placed on the JSC campus. You might have a better look at that from upstairs on Sky Eye, but where we are at, we are being kept far back from what is going on and Building 44. And quite frankly, that would be a good thing if there is someone that is, presumably armed. You would also consider them to be dangerous. And as you know, the other surrounding buildings are being told to shelter in place. So there's not a lot of traffic from the people that are here moving around. There's not a lot of free moving around here on campus, I can tell you that.
Okay, Cynthia Cisneros reporting live there from the JSC complex. We appreciate your report, and please get back with us as well if there's any developing information. Just to give you a scene setter now here of what we've been talking about for the past 45 minutes or so. This began about 1:45, just before 2 o'clock, when at Building 44. Now, Building 44 here houses communications equipment, tracking development laboratory as well. It's administrative offices for a lot of engineers. All of them have been evacuated. They were evacuated soon after, or just before 2 o'clock, when we understand individual with a gun was inside. A shot was heard we understand. At least those are the reports. The building was cleared, and we don't know whether the gunman inside has taken anyone hostage. We don't know whether there has anyone been injured, but we do know that, at least from the police report, that they have indicated that he is on the second floor and has barricaded himself there on the second floor. A white male, 50 years old, blonde hair, no facial hair, we understand. He's about 5'9". He was wearing a blue-gray shirt and blue jeans as well. JSC houses about 3,000 employees, and it also, interesting here to...
All right, we're going to break away from our affiliate coverage right now. A dramatic story unfolding on the campus of the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Police have barricaded a building. They have a report that a gunman is inside. One report saying at least a shot has been fired, maybe more. The area has been shut down. One of the smaller office buildings on the Johnson Space Center campus near Mission Control. No word on the individual, who that individual might be, what sort of motive there might be involved. But on the phone, joining us now is Karen Permetti, the Director of Public Information for the Clear Creek Independent School District. Karen, where are you right now?
Well, right now, Space Center Intermediate is in lockdown. Space Center Intermediate is adjacent to the NASA property.
And your school district is adjacent to the Johnson Space Center, is that right?
One of our schools in the school district is adjacent to the property. Space Center Intermediate is.
Karen, I want you to hold on for a second. I want to get your eyewitness account of what's going on, but our own Miles O'Brien is also on the phone right now. He's got some additional information. Miles, you're very close to this story. You've been there numerous times. What do you know?
Well, Wolf, I just got off the phone with some people who are on the campus at the command post there, as a matter of fact, one of the public affairs officers there. And here's what we know. The alleged gunman in this case is an employee. The employee apparently had some sort of handgun. This happened inside Building 44, and once it became known that this situation was developing, the word came out from NASA administration there for employees on that sprawling campus to shelter in place. That order has since been rescinded. There remains a lockdown for Building 44 where this situation is developing, but other employees at Johnson Space Center have been told they are free to go home for now. So the situation is deemed to be secure and isolated to that Building 44, which is not too far from Mission Control, as you've been telling people, sort of in the center and yet on the periphery of the campus at the Johnson Space Center. No word right now as to whether there are any hostages. That's still developing. But at this point, we know this. An employee is inside there with a handgun, and unclear what the demands or the grievance or the complaint might be. Unclear if there are any hostages. But at this point, only Building 44 has been sequestered. The remainder of that sprawling campus, and there's in excess of, I'd say, 14 to 15,000 total employees, contractors, and NASA civil servants, have been told they're safe to go home.
Did you get any information, Miles, on whether any shots were fired?
Don't know that yet. I've seen other reports that there were some shots fired, so I don't know if that's how it began. No indication there were any injuries at this point.
I've been at the Johnson Space Center not as many times as you have, but to get onto that campus, you get some sort of check. You just can't simply, any random person, just walk onto the campus, certainly not carrying a weapon.
Well, here's the thing at the Johnson Space Center. First of all, if this was in fact an employee, that's a whole different layer of security. Basically, an employee, when they arrive at work there, flashes a badge from inside their car, and they get waved through onto the campus. It's not as if they're going through metal detectors on a daily basis, particularly if they're employees. Now, there are certain parts of the compound that are a little more secure. For instance, Mission Control is a more secure location than others. But typically, an employee driving in their vehicle would have plenty of opportunity to conceal a weapon, and there'd be no way to check that. You and I, when we go in, we go through an extra layer of security and vetting. But typically, for most buildings, you don't pass through a metal detector.
This building, Building 44, it's an engineering building. It's described as a communications and tracking development laboratory. What, if anything, should we draw from that?
I don't know if there's much to be drawn from that, except that it's a reminder that what Johnson Space Center is all about. This is the home of the NASA astronauts. That's where all their offices are, and this is the home of the manned space program, sort of the capital of the manned space program for NASA. And so there's a lot of work that goes on there relating to keeping astronauts in space and safe, and communicating with them, and designing spacecraft that do just that. So. I don't know that we can draw any other conclusions on that, except to say that apparently this employee worked in that building.
It's one of the smaller office buildings. It's on the campus, and as we've been pointing out, not very far away from Mission Control. I guess it's fair to say, Miles, that we're all watching this very, very closely, given the horrible events that unfolded earlier this week on Monday at Virginia Tech, the campus of that university there. There's a report now of a man with a weapon barricaded into a second story of this office building, this engineering building on the campus of the Johnson Space Center. And so that makes all of us very, very jittery.
Well, we are all forgiven at this point to be quite literally a little bit gun-shy, certainly, Wolf. One thing that the folks at the command post were quick to point out, too, was how quickly they got a notification out to their employees. NASA is a very, it's interesting, Wolf, the NASA Johnson Space Center campus was designed specifically to be like a campus because the land was originally owned by Rice University. And at the time, they thought if they ever, for whatever reason, wanted to take it back, they could use it as a college campus. So there is a connection there. But what you have to remember about people at the Johnson Space Center is they live and breathe and communicate on email. And so it's very easy to communicate with them very quickly and effectively with email, very different from an undergraduate college population. And so the word, I've gotten some emails in and out and gotten quick responses from employees who are inside there who are fully apprised of what's going on.
Miles, hold on a second. I want to update you and our viewers on what one of our affiliates, KTRK in Houston, is now reporting, and they're quoting James Hartsfield with NASA as saying that shots were fired in Building 44. At this time, there are no reports of any injuries. Ambulances, though, have been brought to the scene. And according to Houston police on the scene, this again, according to our affiliate KTRK in Houston, the suspect is described as a white male, 50 to 52 years old, blonde hair, no facial hair, glasses, slim build, 5'9", bluish gray color shirt, gray or blue jeans. They also said he was barricaded on the second floor, northwest corner near the stairwell. No word of any motive as of this point. So clearly there's a lot of concern as to what's going on the campus, Miles, right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, NASA has its own contract security force there, which would be involved, but clearly this is a matter that would involve other authorities, specially trained authorities, people who can deal with negotiations, people who can deal with special weapons and tactics. And it could be one of those scenarios that might end up being, kind of a long standoff. But what is absent from all those reports, and which to this point should be hardening, is the word at this point that there is a hostage or hostages. And let's hope that early report bears true.
Certainly, we're hoping for that. We're watching this all very closely. Miles, I want you to stand by because still on the phone with us is Karen Permetti, the Director of Public Information for the Clear Creek Independent School District. Karen, what can you tell us about what you're seeing, what you're hearing? You're adjacent to where all of this is unfolding.
Yes, as a precaution, we implemented our lockdown procedure at Space Center Intermediate. And about 5 minutes ago, we just released lockdown, which means that school is resuming as scheduled, and students will be dismissed at their regular time at 4 p.m.
And you did that, you went down to this lower level, back to normal, if you will, as a result of what? Local law enforcement saying they've got this situation under control at that one building, Building 44 on the campus of the Johnson
Correct.
Space Center?
Well, we work very closely with our policing agencies and obviously NASA authorities, and they had called us and let us know that they felt we could give an all clear and they had the situation under control.
Miles, is there a question you'd like to ask Karen?
Well, yeah, Karen, I'm curious how you became aware of all this. How did the word get out to you? Was it through local media? Was it a specific call or email that was sent in your direction?
A specific phone call was made to Clear Creek ISD to inform us that a possible man had entered the NASA property with a weapon. And so as a precaution, we immediately implemented lockdown at our campus since we are so close to that property.
And I'm curious, do you have a fairly close relationship with NASA, and do you drill for scenarios one way or another? I mean, the possibility of something going awry at NASA might be something you have considered.
We have an extremely close working relationship with NASA, and we do work together quite well. We do practice, as a district, practice our emergency plans routinely with all the appropriate agencies in our communities.
All right, I just want to update our viewers also. Houston Police, Miles and Karen, they have dispatched a SWAT team to the area as well, to this specific building. Don't know if that SWAT team has yet arrived. Karen Permetti, thank you very much for helping us better understand what's happening right next to the Johnson Space Center, the Public Information Director for the Clear Creek Independent School District. A lot of history, Miles, on this campus of the Johnson Space Center. A lot of very good history, some not so good, given the history of the space program over the years. When you first heard about this, Miles, as someone who's covered this space story so closely over these many years, what went through your mind?
Well, of course, I thought of all my friends and acquaintances that I've gotten to know there over the years, and was just worried about them personally to make sure they were out of harm's way. I've heard from most everybody who I have an ongoing relationship that things are pretty well contained there, but it is a great and storied place. It's if you're interested in the space world, it's a lot of amazing and wonderful things go on there, but it is also a place that employs 15,000 people, and that is a big operation with a lot of people who have issues that they bring to work, or perhaps bring to work in ways that become real negative, like we're seeing now. And
there's been an enormous amount of fear since Monday in the tragic incident at Virginia Tech of what the experts are calling copycats. Saw that situation unfold after Columbine out in Colorado, and there's fear that there could be copycats around the country, something that all law enforcement, all authorities at schools and other campuses around the country are watching very closely. Let me update our viewers on what we know right now based on this latest information that we're following here in the Situation Room. Just a little while ago, Houston Police and NASA security responded to the Johnson Space Center after getting a report of a person with a gun in one of the center's office buildings, this coming from a NASA spokesman. Houston police saying the police also received a report of gunfire inside that building. It's called Building 44. It's near the center of the space complex. It's been evacuated, according to the Space Center spokesman, James Hartsfield. And I'm quoting Hartsfield now as saying this: "It's one of our smaller office buildings on site. I don't have an exact number of people in that building, but they evacuated the building." Hartsfield said that NASA security rules do not allow weapons on the property. The situation remains in progress, and beyond that, the details are developing. He said the school that was in a lockdown adjacent to the Johnson Space Center has about 1,100 students, but as we just heard Karen Permetti, the spokeswoman for the Clear Creek Independent School District, say they are no longer in that lockdown, and school will end on schedule today. They've got it all clear as far as the adjacent school district is concerned. But at this point, Miles, there's by no means any all clear at this one engineering building on the campus of the Johnson Space Center in Houston. We're watching these aerial photographs, these pictures coming in, thanks to our affiliate in Houston, KHOU. Miles, how big, give our viewers a sense of how big the Johnson Space Center really is.
Well, you're going to stump me on acreage, but it's definitely thousands of acres. Much of it remains unused. As a matter of fact, they have a huge swath of land where they actually have longhorns there, believe it or not. One of the criteria when they first selected what was then called the Manned Spacecraft Center, because at that point, of course, Johnson was the vice president when they selected this site, there were two criteria. The land had to be plentiful and relatively inexpensive, and it had to be fairly near an existing Air Force base. And that was why this location, along with probably a little bit of politics at the time, to have an important place in Texas was good politically, of course, for the Kennedy administration, and of course Vice President Johnson having something to do with that. In any case, Ellington Air Force Base being nearby and this land owned by Rice University became the sweet spot and the place where the Manned Spacecraft Center was born. And this is all occurring in the early to mid-'60s when this all kind of came together. And as I say, they built it deliberately like a campus because Rice University at the time wasn't certain if they would be taking the property back at some point and would want to use it as a college campus. And so that's why you had this sprawling facility. And as time has gone on, of course, more and more structures have been built, and as the mission has expanded there, and as the astronaut office has grown.
The whole purpose of the Johnson Space Center is it's really the hub. It's really the brains of the entire space program, and it's where everything, all the mission control, all that originates.
Yeah, well, certainly for all the piloted missions, anytime you have people involved, that is it is the heart and soul. It is the nerve center. You know, a lot of people would ask, well, why isn't it in Florida where they launch the rockets? And that takes me back to that political question and that question of why things are based where they are for perhaps favor in Congress. And that's how it ended up south of Houston at a time when that part of the world was pretty thinly populated, that 25 miles south of the center of Houston. So it is where missions are coordinated. It is, it is the Houston of Houston. We have a problem. Is mission control right there, and that's just across a parking lot and a street from where this all is unfolding right now.
It's and I'm looking at a map, Miles, of the complex. It looks like this building 44 is almost right in the middle of this campus, not all that close to any of the main entrances. Certainly not close to the main entrance that you're very familiar with off of NASA Road and I-45. You really got to drive away to get inside the campus to get to this engineering building. Yeah,
it is a sprawling campus, and you really have to know your way around, and it's easy to get lost amid all those numbers trying to find your way. That is the beauty of having all that space is that they can build these structures as they need them and continue on, and they certainly have space to expand should the mission require it.
This is a federal property, if you will, but Houston Police and NASA Security are deeply involved right now, according to all the reports that we're getting. When we hear the words NASA Security, Houston Police, a SWAT team, we can certainly understand. NASA Security, what does that mean?
Well, like much of NASA, one of the things about NASA that most people don't fully understand is that the number of actual NASA employees is dwarfed by the contractor employees. Even the majority of employees there, I'm going to guess the civilian employees, which would include the administrators, the high-level people, all the astronauts or civil servants, all of those people would probably number 3,000 to 4,000. The remainder, probably 10,000, 12,000 in all, are contractors. They work for Boeing or United Space Alliance or Lockheed Martin, and on the list goes. It's just the nature of aerospace. They don't hire them as government employees. It ultimately gives NASA, the agency, flexibility in dealing with contractions and expansions in its workforce by using a contractor workforce. And among the contractors are the security force. The security force, while the head of security may or may not be a civilian or a civil servant, I should say, government employee, the actual people responsible for guarding the perimeter there are contractors, and that's the way NASA operates.
And just to recap at the bottom of the hour for our viewers what we know, Houston Police and NASA Security, they responded earlier, just about 2 hours or so ago, an hour and a half or so ago, to the Johnson Space Center after getting a report that a person with a gun was inside the building. We're getting this report from one of our affiliates out there, Miles. Officials say there were reports that between 5 to 9 shots were fired. No reports of injuries as of now. Authorities say the suspect, the man in this particular case, is barricaded in a second-floor office. Identity not known, at least it hasn't been disclosed, and there's no indication that there are any hostages or others are barricaded with him inside. We did get a description earlier of the suspect who's inside that building. But if this report is true, that 5 to 9 shots were fired, that's obviously very, very disturbing.
Yes, it is. You know, as we say, we have no indication there are hostages or injuries at this point, but that is a troubling thing, and I'm certain that was quite a start. And, you know, going back to what you were saying about what we've all been enduring collectively this past week or so out of Blacksburg, Virginia, I'm sure there'll be some psychologists who will ask questions about whether this is a triggering, if you'll excuse that term, a triggering point for people who psychologically might have a bent this way.
I also want to point out, once again, according to the Houston police on the scene, and this according to our affiliate KTRK, the suspect described as a white male, 50 to 52 years old, blonde hair, no facial hair, glasses, slim build, 5'9"-ish, bluish gray color shirt, gray or blue jeans. They also said he was barricaded on the second floor in the northwest corner of that building. Kylie Clem is a NASA spokesperson, and Kylie Clem is joining us on the phone. What can you tell us about this very disturbing situation?
Hello?
Yeah, Kylie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Could you give us an update on what we know?
Really, as the situation is developing here, the Houston Police Department will have the latest. What we know is that, of course, that building was evacuated and other employees were advised to stay inside their buildings.
Do we know, Kylie, if everyone inside that building successfully has been evacuated? In other words, does the gunman in this particular case have hostages?
I don't know, actually. We get the call when security is dispatched, and what they told us was that there was a person identified with a weapon and that building was being evacuated. So at that point, that was the extent and the detail we know of what has happened so far.
Do you know anything about this individual, this gunman?
No, we don't.
What goes on in the building, Kylie, Building 44? Tell us a little bit about this structure.
That is a building for some of our engineering personnel. They focus on the communications and tracking systems of our spacecraft. It's not real-time operations, but the engineering of those systems.
Kylie, Miles O'Brien, our space correspondent, is also joining. So, Miles, I'm sure you have some questions you'd like to ask Kylie.
Kylie, first of all, can you rule out that there were any hostages? Is that definite at this point?
I don't have any information either way, Miles.
Okay, and as far as the number of shots fired, have they told you about that?
No.
Okay.
Can you confirm, Kylie, that shots were in fact fired?
Not officially. We haven't been told that from security.
Okay, and give us a sense of how you notified employees there. How did that all occur?
I know at least an email notification was sent out.
What time did that happen?
I don't know, honestly. Sorry at this point.
The whole incident began around 1:40 Central Time. Is that right, Kylie?
That's correct. That's when we received the call from security dispatch.
So that would be 2:40 Eastern. It's now approaching 4:40, so it's about 2 hours or so ago that this situation has unfolded. The Houston police, the SWAT team, the NASA security, are they all in place already? Is everyone there?
As far as I can tell, we're watching helicopter views as many people are, I'm sure, that we've seen the police cars on site there.
How long have you worked there at NASA at the Johnson Space Center, Kylie? Because I'm trying to get a sense of how extraordinary, how unusual this situation might be.
I've worked here almost about 10 years.
And have you ever had an experience like this before?
I would say no, not something unique like this.
Miles, do you recall anything like this happening at the Johnson Space Center?
Well, you know, it's interesting because at the Johnson Space Center, when you, first of all, the answer is no, Wolf, but what's interesting about that is how much they drill safety and how much they drill the need to know where you're supposed to go whenever there is an emergency. Kylie, you can address that for a little bit because there are hazardous materials there. There are concerns that things might require rapid evacuation. Why don't you explain to people how you prepare for emergencies?
Sure. This situation, I guess, could be similar to a fire drill or a fire alarm going off in a building. The whole building would be evacuated. I'm not sure how the employees would have been notified in this case, but they would go a certain distance away from the building. We all know where our section to go to is outside each of our buildings, so that's probably what happened in this case.
And do we know, have they done an accurate head count of the number of people in that building yet?
No. I would say it's one of our smaller buildings, but I don't know for sure.
We are getting,
if
Miles, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Kylie, one of our affiliates now reporting that apparently law enforcement has identified the suspect as a contract worker with a firm that is involved over at NASA. Talk a little bit, Kylie, about contract workers, the notion of who they are, how many they are, what their roles are at the Johnson Space Center.
Well, really, we work side by side with civil servants and contractors here. It takes many folks to keep the space business going, and as far as numbers, here at the Johnson Space Center within our on-site area and the Clear Lake area, we have about 15,000 employees, all included, and only about 3,000 of them are civil servants. So it's quite a big contractor workforce that supports the space program.
I'm going to read to you what a former astronaut, Dr. Bill Fisher, is saying about how to get onto the Johnson Space Center. It echoes what Miles O'Brien told us just a little while ago. Dr. Bill Fisher says if you're an employee and have the correct badge and the correct sticker on your car, you can generally drive right in. If this were a contractor or a NASA employee, that person would have almost unlimited access to the Space Center once you're through the gate. For someone who is not a NASA employee, they have to go through a number of security checks, and they would have to get a special badge. Kylie, is that about accurate?
Well, actually, Wolf, I'm not too comfortable talking about what our security measures are here, being a government facility and an operational facility such as we are. And I couldn't really personally go into a lot of the detail there.
All right, so that's totally understandable, Kylie. But Miles, is there anything you want to add to what Dr. Bill Fisher says?
No, I think that's exactly. I'm not encumbered the way Kylie is. That's exactly the way the security operation works there. If you have a badge, if you have a sticker, you flash it in the windshield as you go through, and you get a wave and a pass, and you're on the campus. And that's the way it works there. I mean, with that many people, you can imagine the rush hour in the morning as people are trying to come in. That's the only practical way to get people to work.
Is there any indication, Kylie, that authorities are negotiating or talking to this gunman inside, holed up in that building barricaded on the second floor, building 44 at the Johnson Space Center?
Not that I've seen, no.
So, but basically what you're saying is that the situation is unfolding. It's been going on now for about 2 hours. Authorities are on the scene, including SWAT teams and Houston police, NASA security, and they're doing what they would do in a situation like this. But as of right now, Kylie, we don't know if there have been any injuries at all, right?
That's right. I don't have that information. It really is still all developing, even 2 hours after the first report.
2 hours is a long time. Miles, any other question you want to ask Kylie before we let her go?
Well, Kylie, just a word on, I know you're around some of your coworkers here. How, especially in the wake of what's happened at Blacksburg, how are people reacting?
Honestly, Miles, I'm sure you know our newsroom here, we're responding to calls and trying to get the information out there. We're focused on the job at hand, of course, you know.
Yeah, I think we may have lost Kylie. Are you still there, Kylie?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You were making a point.
I don't know where you lost me there.
No, you were saying that you're focused on your job at hand, but
Yeah.
but you were about to say that people, understandably, I assume you were going to say, are nervous.
Well, of course, we're concerned about the safety of our employees and our friends and family that work here at NASA. All
right. We'll let you get back to work, Kylie. Thanks very much for helping us. We'll check back with you and your colleagues very, very shortly. Kylie Clem is a spokesperson over at NASA. And let me spend a moment, Miles, once again, because I'm sure people are continuing to tune in at various points, the breaking news that we're following here in the Situation Room on CNN right now. And let me just update our viewers on what we know. About 2 hours or so ago, 1:40 p.m. Central Time, 2:40 Eastern, Houston Police, NASA Security responded after getting a report that a person with a gun was barricaded inside one of the buildings on the Johnson Space Center campus. Houston police saying that the police had received report of gunfire. One of our affiliates saying 5 or 6 or 7 shots were fired. We do not have independent confirmation of that. There's no report, no word yet of any injuries at all. Building 44 is near the space, the center of the space complex. It has been evacuated. We just heard that from Kylie Clem, the NASA spokesperson. It's one of the smaller office buildings on the site. No word on how many people work inside, but NASA security does not allow weapons on the property. This is still an unfolding drama right now, Miles.
I'm sorry, I missed that last question.
I said this is still very much of an unfolding drama 2 hours into this tense situation over at Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center. There's no word it's been resolved.
Yeah, and I think, one of the key things here is that at head count, which I've been having a difficult time getting anybody to confirm. I don't think anybody knows for certain if everybody is accounted for. As you can imagine, in the course of any given day, who knows who's in a building at any given moment or went out to get a snack or whatever the case may be. So it'll take some time to put that together. And the related question is there anybody inside there who could be a potential hostage or is a hostage? And that will have a tremendous amount to say about how the SWAT teams and the authorities deal with this situation and how any sort of negotiation, if there would be one, might be opened up.
One of our affiliates, KHOU, is now reporting this chilling information, Miles, and let me read it to you as it comes into the Situation Room here at CNN. A source inside that building has told KHOU that a meeting was underway in a conference room in Building 44 when the gunman walked in, pointed a gun at one person, and he ordered everyone else out. This report has not been confirmed by NASA officials, but you hear those words, Miles, and it sends some shivers down your spine.
Yeah, that's a chilling one. If that proves to be true, that does raise the prospect that there might be somebody, an innocent, in harm's way here. And let's hope that turns out to be a false lead. And Wolf, as we always do, and I know you do it all the time, we have to caution our viewers that in these situations there are a lot of cul-de-sacs we end up going down because it's very difficult to get accurate information as it's happening. It's
always true that the preliminary information turns out to be misleading, sometimes very, very wrong, but we're watching this story unfold, a dramatic story unfolding on the campus of the Johnson Space Center in Houston, and this story, as we've been pointing out to our viewers, Miles, coming only a few days after the horrible tragedy that unfolded at Virginia Tech, the campus of Virginia Tech, early Monday morning. Miles, you and I have covered a lot of these stories over the years, and when we hear law enforcement, and immediately after Virginia Tech, they came out, former FBI agents, others who are deeply knowledgeable about these kinds of matters, they immediately came out and expressed fears of copycats. And I know that is a real fear all across the country right now.
Yeah, and as you know, Wolf, and you've reported on this, there have been reports of schools that have actually shut their doors because of what happened, not only at Virginia Tech, but also the Columbine anniversary. And so, yes, that, psychologically, a lot of the people who are expert at this will tell you that these events have a way of creating, unfortunately, other events. And, obviously way too early to say what is in the mind of this employee with a handgun there, but certainly that's something that will be looked at.
All right, Miles, I'm going to have you stand by, and I'm going to keep a picture of what's happening, a live picture from the Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center up on our screen so our viewers can follow that, and we'll, of course, get back to the story as we get more information, but there's other important news that we're following, and I want to just make sure we don't neglect that even as we watch this drama unfold at the Johnson Space Center. We'll get back there shortly, but meanwhile here in Washington, more Republicans now seem angered to show Alberto Gonzales the door over at the Justice Department. CNN is now learning of fresh GOP anxiety about the Attorney General on this, the day after his widely panned Senate testimony. Let's go straight to our congressional correspondent, Dana Bash. Dana, what are you hearing, not from Democrats so much, but from Republicans right now?
Well, what we're hearing, Wolf, is that the Attorney General essentially failed his test, which was to come here to Congress yesterday and restore his credibility. And in fact, we talked to two influential Republicans today who said they think it may be time for the Attorney General to leave.
As such time as needs.
The third-ranking Republican in the House tells CNN he now thinks it's time for the Attorney General to step down. I think that they would be well served by fresh leadership, GOP Congressman Adam Putnam told CNN. He did not distinguish himself in the hearing. There remains a cloud over the department. In the Senate, an influential conservative on judicial matters said he's wrestling with whether Alberto Gonzales should keep his job. Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama tells CNN the Attorney General should take time this weekend to think about it. Ask himself whether he can effectively reconstitute the Attorney General's office, and I'll be thinking about the same thing, said Sessions. If he feels like he cannot, then it would be best for the president and the country to resign. Sessions is usually a reliable Bush ally, but he's a former U.S. attorney who has become increasingly concerned the Justice Department is damaged by the fired prosecutors controversy and was openly frustrated Thursday when the Attorney General couldn't remember if he was at a key November meeting 10 days before the attorneys were fired.
Well, I guess I'm concerned about your recollection, really, because it's not that long ago. It was an important issue, and that's troubling to me.
GOP support for Gonzales is so limited, some Republicans who want him to stay say it's because the alternative, a confirmation hearing for a new Attorney General, could be worse.
If for some reason Alberto Gonzales is thrown overboard, it's not going to end the problem that the president has from a political standpoint. A newly emboldened Democrat majority who's going to continue to conduct investigations and try to gain political advantage the best they can.
Now, this weekend is going to be very important for Alberto Gonzales' fate. Not only did Senator Jeff Sessions tell us he's going to take the time, look at the transcripts, talk to his staff about whether or not he does think the Attorney General should step down. Other senators, Republicans who have been critical of the Attorney General are as well, like Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa, for example. He says he's going to do the exact same thing. So just because, Wolf, there isn't a massive drumbeat for the Attorney General to step down from Republicans right now, doesn't mean it's still not coming.
So just the bottom line, behind the scenes, Dana, is there a drumbeat among Republicans to encourage the Attorney General to step down?
Well, here's what's going on, Wolf. There is sort of a hold your breath feeling right now. They are essentially trying to maybe, with some of these public statements, nudge him along a little bit to say, you know, you really have to think about this. But in private, what I'm hearing from Republicans is that they didn't think that the Attorney General came across as somebody who wanted to fight for his job, especially in this political environment. Many Republicans I talked to said that he wasn't necessarily combative enough, if you will, with Democrats. He looked a little bit beleaguered. So there is a feeling that perhaps, although the public statements from the Justice Department and from the White House is very supportive, that they think perhaps by, perhaps next week, maybe even a couple days after that, maybe they won't have to be so loud, that in private they're making pretty clear that he may not be long for this world.
Dana, thanks for that. We'll continue to stay on top of this story. There's another important story we're watching right now. That's in Iraq and the uproar over the Senate Majority Leader's statement that the war is lost. Harry Reid is revisiting his comments today after some Republicans said he's flat wrong. First, listen to what Senator Reid said yesterday.
As long as we follow the president's path in Iraq, the war is lost. But there is still a chance to change course, and we must change course.
Defense Secretary Robert Gates fired back at Reid today during his trip to Iraq. Listen to this.
I would say that I have a great respect for Senator Reid. And on the matter of whether the war is lost, I respectfully disagree.
Today, Senator Reid went to the Senate floor to repeat his comments, but without the controversial words, the war is lost.
I think it's important for me to repeat what I said yesterday afternoon in this chamber. The longer we continue down the president's path, the further we will be from responsibly ending this war.
Let's go to our White House correspondent, Suzanne Malveaux. Suzanne, what's President Bush saying about the arguments being made that his plan simply won't work?
Well, if the president did not address directly Reid's comments today, but the White House is taking kind of this "I dare you" tone. We heard from the press secretary, Deputy Press Secretary Dana Perino, who said, well, if Reid is serious about his comments, then why doesn't he have the courage of convictions to basically defund this war? And then she said to face the consequences. What the White House is counting on and hoping on is that perhaps Democrats will pay some sort of consequences. Perhaps Americans will turn on them for not funding the war. We heard the president earlier today. He was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and again he pleaded for patience from the American people, saying there was some progress that was being made. The surge just 2 months old, that 50% of the decrease in stockpiles at the murder rate has gone down in half in Baghdad. And at the same time, Wolf, he tried to recognize Americans' concerns, but he also dismissed the polls that reflect those concerns.
When I go home and look in the mirror in Crawford, Texas, after my time, I will be able to say he didn't change his principles to be the popular guy.
So, Wolf, obviously the president talking about the fact that he is taking an unpopular position here and that he believes it'll be, in part, what forms his legacy. Wolf?
And as we're talking about what's happening in Iraq, there's drama unfolding at the Johnson Space Center. Suzanne, as you know, we've been covering it extensively this hour. A gunman is apparently barricaded in the second floor in this building, building 44 on the Johnson Space Center complex. We don't have specific information. There are reports shots were fired. The president has been informed about what's going on, I take it, Suzanne.
Well, if we're just getting this information here, a pool report, I want to read it to you off my BlackBerry here. This is from the Deputy Press Secretary, Dana Perino. We understand that she came back towards the end of the flight aboard the plane to tell journalists the following who were traveling with the president, that Dan Bartlett informed the president during the flight about the situation at the Johnson Space Center, that the White House is in touch with NASA, and Fran Townsend, who, of course, in charge of security matters, is the designated official who will keep the White House appraised of what is going on. So clearly the president is aware of the situation that is taking place there, Wolf.
And the president, no doubt, Suzanne, as you well know, has a very personal interest in this story, given the fact he's from Texas and a former governor of the state of Texas, so I assume he's watching this a lot more closely than a lot of other people.
Absolutely, Wolf, and the president is due back here at the White House very shortly, so we'll be working on more details as well.
Suzanne, thanks very much. Suzanne Malveaux reporting from the White House on the campus of Virginia Tech. A new step toward closure today in the mourning process and in the investigation. Our Brian Todd is joining us once again from Blacksburg, Virginia. What's happening today, Brian?
Wolf, we have some news just in. What appears to be the first public comment of Jo Seung Hui's family. We have this from the Associated Press, that the family is quoted as saying they, quote, never could have envisioned that he was capable of so much violence. That from the Associated Press. They don't make it quite clear, right through that I'm getting, which member of the Jo family said this comment. But the comment again from Jo Seung Hui's family to the Associated Press, they never could have envisioned that he was capable of so much violence. We also know from the medical examiner's office that all the bodies of the dead, including Jo, have been released to their families. The examiner's office declined to say whether Jo's family has actually collected his remains, Wolf. We're getting other details in the investigation as well.
What else do we know about the status of Jo's family here in the United States, Brian?
Well, Wolf, since Monday at least, they have been in seclusion. They have gone underground completely. They have contacted law enforcement. They have been in contact with the FBI, we are told, for law enforcement purposes only. But for the most part, they have gone underground. This comment from them, attributed to the Associated Press, is the first public comment that we know of since the shootings.
Brian Todd reporting for us on this Friday over at Virginia Tech. We're going to be getting back to Brian. More information coming out of Virginia Tech. That's coming up. But let's get back to the breaking news we're following right now. The Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Building 44 there is now surrounded. Local law enforcement, SWAT teams are on the scene. NASA security. A man apparently walked into one building and had a gun. There are reports that shots were fired. Frederica Whitfield is monitoring this story for us. Fred, what else are we picking up right now?
Well, we're hearing from those eyewitness accounts that from one shot to several shots being heard by many witnesses in that building. We understand that this person, who's the alleged gunman, is a contractor and may work for the company Jacobs Engineering, and We don't know anything more about him except that we have gotten a brief description of him, a man in his 50s, a description about what he has been wearing, that he has no facial hair, blonde hair, slim build, about 5'9", etc. And while nearly the entire campus is on lockdown, there is also a school, you talked to an administrator earlier, that is nearby adjacent to the facility there at the Johnson Space Center that is also on lockdown. So that means that none of the parents are allowed to come by the school and remove any of their children. NASA is assuring folks that they have accounted for all the student visitors, anyone who is deemed a tourist at the Johnson Space Center. They have accounted for all of them. They're in a safe place for any folks who may be worried about their loved ones who may be visiting the Johnson Space Center. But as it goes right now, Building 44, which is known to be the Communication and Tracking Development Lab, this is a place where they do test communication equipment for the Space Shuttle and for the International Space Center, that is on lockdown. We understand that anywhere between 1 to 2 police officers or SWAT team members is at the corner of each side of that building to get a close eye on any kind of activity that may be happening on the immediate periphery of that building. Wolf.
And I just want to stress that we don't know for sure whether or not some shots were fired, although there are several reports now saying at least one shot was fired,
right,
and maybe 4, maybe more. But Fred, we have no information anyone has been injured.
That's right. It's still unclear whether anyone has been injured. We only know about those eyewitness accounts of the shots fired, but again, police are trying to gather that kind of information because initial reports from people who worked at the Johnson Space Center have been coming in. Police as well as NASA security authorities responded immediately, and so they're still trying to piece together those initial reports. Their primary concern right now is securing the area, and we also understand that this alleged gunman is, I guess, has himself holed up on the second floor of this building, and so they really just want to make sure that they can get to him before anyone is injured.
So we'll stay on top of this story very, very closely. I think Miles O'Brien is ready to join us once again. Miles O'Brien, our longtime space correspondent, who's very, very familiar with the Johnson Space Center, all things over at that very, very huge complex right in Houston. The Johnson Space Center, as Miles reported and reminded us earlier, was established back in 1961 as the Manned Spacecraft Center. In 1973, it was renamed in honor of the late president and Texas native Lyndon Baines Johnson. Have you had a chance, Miles, to get some more information on what may be happening at the Johnson Space Center?
Well, I've talked to a few people since I last spoke with you, Wolf, and confirmed everything we've said thus far, that, you know, initially shots were fired, and at least that's the reports that have trickled down to workers there in the compound. I haven't talked to anybody at the command post. I've had a hard time getting through there. There are indications that SWAT teams are moving in on the location where this man is barricaded. Once again, no confirmation one way or another as to whether there were or are or any potential hostages inside that building. And that obviously will have a lot to do with how this quickly or slowly this situation resolves itself, if it does.
And we are getting reports that the gunman in this particular case, the suspect, is a contractor who works at the Johnson Space Center. We've done some checking, Miles. There are about 3,000 employees, NASA employees, who work at the Johnson Space Center. Most of them are engineers and scientists. But get this, there are 12,000 contractors from about 50 companies who work on site or in nearby office buildings or other facilities. And at any one point, there are about 110 astronauts based at the Johnson Space Center for training. But you mentioned that huge number, 12,000 contractors. That sounds like a lot of people.
Well, yeah, and it's really, it's kind of a seamless thing, Wolf. That's always the way NASA has operated. And that 4-to-1 ratio is pretty much across the board at all of the NASA the NASA locations, particularly the manned space operation. The Johnson Space Center and the Kennedy Space Center in particular are built this way, primarily because once you hire civil servants, government employees, it's a lot more difficult to handle the natural ebbs and flows of this business. As they ramp up and build spacecraft and have a lot of missions, they need more people, and then of course as programs and missions go away, so do the employees. And so that's typically been the way things have worked there, that contractors are hired en masse by NASA. They bid out to build the spacecraft. It was years ago, it was Rockwell that built, was the prime contractor on the space shuttle orbiters themselves. That has led to a couple of iterations to now a group called the United Space Alliance. But there are many other smaller contractors that are involved there, and that's generally the way they do business. NASA, civil servants, government employees, in more of the supervisory overseeing roles, the roles where you have a lot of public contact are NASA civil servant jobs, like the public affairs jobs. Of course, we know the astronauts are civil servants. They're, of course, on loan from the military. But beyond that, most of the people you see sitting in those seats in mission control who are on the radios talking to the crew members and talking to the flight directors, those people are contractors, and they're vetted just the way a government employee would be. They're treated just the way the government employees would be. And there's nothing, when you say contractor in the sense of hiring a carpenter at your house, it's not quite the same. They're given a high level of vetting before they're brought onto the campus, and just because their paycheck comes from Lockheed Martin or Boeing or United Space Alliance, and the person in the next cubicle is actually getting a check from the U.S. government, really is not a factor in day-to-day operations.
All right, Miles, stand by. We're going to be speaking shortly with James Hartsfield, a NASA spokesman in Houston at the Johnson Space Center. But let me recap. It's now the top of the hour here in the Situation Room. What's going on at the Johnson Space Center? Reports coming in over the past 2 hours and 20 minutes or so that a gunman walked into a conference room at Building 44 on the complex, on the campus of the Johnson Space Center, and told everyone to get out, apparently. And the SWAT teams from the Houston Police, NASA security were brought in. This standoff, though, continues. There are reports that shots have been fired. There are no reports that anyone has been injured. But let's bring in James Hartsfield right now. He's joining us on the phone. He's a NASA spokesman. Maybe you can update us, Mr. Hartsfield, on what we know.
I really don't have a lot of new details, Wolf, on the situation. As you know, it continues to develop. The Houston police are in charge of the operations at the building. Their communications and their statements eventually will be your best source of information on what has occurred or is occurring. I would tell you that we did send out a notice to all employees at the center a short time ago that they are certainly free to leave. It's near the end of the workday here. They can leave as they would normally as their work wraps up. And we just sent some advice to them on what gates they might want to leave out of the center. It's in an email that was sent to all employees so that they could avoid areas that are blocked off by police at present.
And we're talking, Mr. Hartsfield, of about, 16,000 people when you add up the NASA employees and all the contractors and everyone else?
Approximately, that's correct, yes. That actually is not the whole number on site, probably more like 10,000 on site. That is the number for all around the center here.
Miles O'Brien is with us. He's a veteran space correspondent. Mr. Hartsfield, I want him to weigh in and ask you a few questions. Miles.
Yeah, hi, Miles.
James, I'm curious how you first found out about it and how the notifications all went. That's obviously...
Well, we have a notification.
Talking a lot about... Huh?
Yeah, the call first came in from Building 44 to our security dispatcher on site with the JSC Security Department. We in Public Affairs hear about it immediately when a call comes in, any call, through a ring-down system that we have that alerts us to any call that takes place. So that was at 1:40 p.m. that the call initially came in. As would be the normal procedure in an incident of this type, Houston police are notified immediately, and really for this certain instance, of course, the police are the authorities in charge.
And so explain then how you notify. What is the process for notifying employees there? I was explaining earlier before you came on, James, that, at NASA at Johnson Space Center, unlike a college campus, email is a pretty effective way of getting a hold of everybody. How did the email go out? How quickly was it sent out? And what were people told?
It really is the most effective way to notify employees. Email here, and we sent out an initial email that did have information of what we knew at the time, which that the person with a weapon had been called in Building 44, and that police and security were responding to it, asking employees to, at that time, shelter in their buildings. Since then, With the situation in the perimeter established around Building 44, the decision has been made that employees can leave, and another subsequent email has been sent out with advice to that effect and advising them routes they can take as they leave work. Not telling them they have to leave. Certainly, if they're working, they can continue their jobs, but we're near the end of the workday, so a lot of people are reaching a point where they normally go home, and we want to make sure they understand they can do that.
Mr. Hartsfield, can you confirm that the individual, the person with the gun, is a contractor who works at the Johnson Space Center?
I really cannot at this time, and I won't confirm it, and I can't tell you it's not true. So, as I said, the police are probably going to be the best source, definitely going to be the best source when they have time to provide the detail on that.
What about injuries? Has anyone, as far as you know, been injured?
I don't have that detail for you either at this point.
Miles, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, yeah, James, first of all, I did hear from other people in public affairs that this was, in fact, an employee. But beyond that...
when you say employee, Miles, you mean a contractor?
Yeah, an employee in the larger sense of the term there, a contractor, which would be under that larger umbrella. But at this point, James, do you have more information on this person than you're able to release?
No, I really don't, Miles. We're following it. The police are operating there, and as soon as the incident reaches a point where it is the right time to do so, I'm sure they will provide all the detail they can. I can tell you that the operations and mission control, I think I heard you mentioning that earlier, that is all proceeding as normal. There's no interruption in any of the activity with the space station or space flight activities underway.
And James, tell me, I've been to a lot of buildings here. I'm not sure I've been to 44. Tell us what goes on there.
It is an engineering, primarily an office building. There are a couple of small laboratories, and primarily the engineering force there works with communications and tracking systems for spacecraft, like the space shuttle and the space station, the antennas and communication systems they use on board.
And do we have some specifics on how it began? There were some reports we've heard that perhaps it began with the gunman entering into an ongoing meeting. Do you know much about that?
Really, again, I can't confirm that for you. I've heard the same reports, of course, from the media, but we don't have the details that we have gotten from the incident site yet that would confirm that, and I'm sure that there will be a point where all those details can be released, and the police will primarily be the parties that can do that.
There's one report that's coming out from one of our affiliates, Mr. Hartsfield, suggesting this employee was either fired or about to be fired. Do you have any information on that?
I'm sorry, I don't. Again, beyond what pretty much I have told you, I will not have a lot more details at this point. I'll be happy to provide anything I can as soon as I can do that.
But as of right now, that building is still under lockdown. Law enforcement has surrounded the building, and hopefully all the employees who work there are out. Is that your understanding?
That's correct. The police are in charge of the scene at the building.
And everyone else on the sprawling campus, the complex, they are either in the process of leaving or they've left already. They're free to go.
No, not necessarily. There are people here that are still doing their normal job. It's just that we're reaching the end of the workday where the majority of people on site do work a normal regular day that ends around 4, 5, or 6, so they will be heading home, they can do so.
This is not an everyday occurrence. One of your colleagues there, who's been there for some 10 years, said she doesn't remember anything like this ever happening at the Johnson Space Center. Mr. Hartsfield, do you remember anything like this ever happening there?
No, this is certainly unusual.
Miles, anything else you want to ask Mr. Hartsfield before we let him go?
Yeah, James, I just want to ask you as well. I know you've been busy fielding queries and calls all day, but have you had a moment to pause to reflect on, and especially in the wake of what happened at Virginia Tech, just what went through people's minds as they process this whole thing unfolding?
Well, I think, any incident of this type, any activity that you see of this type leaves you confused and certainly, basically saddened that there's any activity of this type that goes on, whatever the severity of it, which we really can't give you yet because I don't have the details for.
All right, Mr. Hartsfield, we'll let you get back, and we'll check back with you for more information as it becomes available. Let's hope that everything gets resolved very, very quickly, safely, and without any injuries to anyone. James Hartsfield is a spokesman for NASA at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Miles, talk a little bit about this complex, the Johnson Space Center, the history and the environment that goes on with this important work that's done over there?
Well, it is in every sense a campus-like atmosphere. It's a lot like being on a college campus. As I mentioned before, Wolf, it was land owned by Rice University. It was deliberately built college campus style on the chance that they might one day want to take it back and run it as a college campus. That there's not much of a chance of that happening anytime soon, of course. And so it has a pretty tight perimeter and security around it. And inside is sort of you have the sense of being at the center of the manned space universe is really there, because that's where you walk down the courtyards and the lush pond sprinkled courtyards and quads, and you see everybody you know who's ever made their mark in space, and that's what this place is all about.
It is, Miles. I've been there. It is almost like an academic environment, almost like a college campus. If you go to an aeronautical engineering department at a big major university, or some science structures, engineering structures, it's almost like that at NASA.
Yeah, and that's quite deliberate, and that certainly is in keeping with what the mission is there, after all. And there's a strong academic underpinning to everything they do, of course, and there's strong associations with universities. So, yeah, going inside there, it's like a college campus with cyclone fence with razor wire around it, on the perimeter. Obviously, a lot more security associated with it than the average college campus. But the interesting thing is, Wolf, and I know you've had this experience too. Once you get inside there, freedom of movement is pretty good. And while you're limited, people like us in the media are limited to visit only certain buildings, and that's displayed on our badges as we go in. We get permission to go to specific buildings on our visits.
Miles, hold on for one second. A reporter from our affiliate KTRK is adjacent to the complex, and she's making this report right now. I want you to listen.
Standing by outside, securing the entrances and exits, but parents, as you can see, are picking up their children. They're lining up. And this school is just across the street, really, from Johnson Space Center. We think we can even see Building 44, albeit way off in the distance from where we are standing. As you said, the school in lockdown mode shortly after they learned of this incident over at Johnson Space Center. But that lockdown was lifted around 3:15 this afternoon. Parents were told that they could come pick up their kids here at school, and a lot of parents whose kids take the bus normally, well, they decided to get out of work earlier and head over here to pick their children up for themselves. We talked to one father about that.
As far as what's going on with the colleges and what they're showing on TV, a lot of people are, copycats are out and about, and I don't know if we're having any downsizing in the area, but I'm sure it's a concern. People getting depressed and trying to do things on their own and not seeking counsel. It's a scary thing.
And as you can see just across the street there, the children getting out of school, obviously in pretty good spirits, but probably some pretty frightening moments when they heard about this lockdown, heard about what was happening just across the street from them. Again, this lockdown lifted. Police officers, though, still on the scene here, trying to make it a smooth transition for the parents and their children. Back to you guys in the studio.
Jessica, in light of what's happened in the past week, again, this would be a nerve-wracking situation for parents anyway, but in light of what's happened during the past week and the images we've seen on television, this obviously could even cause panic in some people today.
Absolutely. I mean, you heard from that one father, and as you can see just across the street, that school has the flags there and have staff, everybody remembering, or everybody very, high in their minds of what happened at Virginia Tech. So obviously anything that's related to any kind of gunman at an office park or at a school, people that's really high in their minds, and people a little rattled by that. So certainly the parents we spoke to said that they wanted to get over here and pick up their children for themselves as quickly as they could.
All right, Jessica Willie, thank you so much, reporting live there. We'll get back to you in just a few minutes.
Back to live pictures of Building 44. This is a communication and engineering building, a two-story office building that you see to the left there. This is a building that NASA tells us consists primarily of office space, and then a few labs, and that is the area where they support the tracking of satellites that are above the Earth, orbiting and taking aerial pictures of, or taking space pictures of the Earth, and as well as helping track the International Space Station and then the Space Shuttle when it's flying this afternoon.
Now, at this point, we can report at least a couple of things. 2 shots were fired inside that building. That much we do know. And at this point, 2 JSC employees are unaccounted for. What we don't know is whether or not they are inside that building. Perhaps they are being held hostage by the gunman, or maybe they're out for a late lunch, perhaps decided to leave a little bit early on a beautiful Friday afternoon. That has not yet been determined, but at least at this point, 2 employees have not yet been accounted for by JSC officials, and they are looking for them, obviously, trying to raise them by telephone or other ways, and still at this point trying to determine whether or not they may be in some way connected with this, or perhaps out there somewhere oblivious to the fact that anyone's even at this point searching for them.
And we are also waiting in the next couple of minutes for HPD to hold a press conference and update us on the current situation here and tell us exactly what is going on. As Melanie said, we have heard that shots were fired and a couple of JSC employees are still unaccounted for. We have heard also that the gunman is on the 2nd floor. Whether or not they have talked to him again, we've said a couple of times, we haven't heard that yet. So they may just simply be trying to establish communications with him or her right now. But again, it was earlier reported it was a man in his early 50s wearing blue jeans and a pullover shirt this afternoon who reportedly had that gun and walked into Building 44 and fired a couple of shots.
Yeah, very loose description.
All right, we're going to break away from our affiliate KTRK, doing some good reporting down there in Houston at the Johnson Space Center. We're standing by for this news conference. We expect it to begin soon. Houston Police, or it's a NASA news conference. We were expecting it to begin very soon. We'll bring it to you live as soon as it starts with the latest information on what we know at Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center. And as we heard James Hartsfield, a NASA spokesman, tell us earlier, they did send out some emails warning all the employees, the contractors, everyone on that campus of the Johnson Space Center there was a problem. And this is what it said. Let me read it to you, that email that was sent out by NASA. You may be aware that there is a situation in B44, that would be Building 44, where a person has a gun. The news is reporting that all the occupants have been evacuated, but there were shots fired. Houston Police Department is responding. There is a lockdown of B44 and 4 adjacent buildings only. Residents of all other buildings are advised to shelter in place until further notice. The roads around B44 are blocked. That was an email sent out by NASA early on in this situation. It's been about 2.5 hours since those shots were fired and this incident began. Our space correspondent Miles O'Brien is with us. That's a pretty chilling email. If I were to get something like that on my text message or BlackBerry, I'd start getting nervous, especially, Miles, in the aftermath of what happened at Virginia Tech on Monday.
I can't imagine anyone, Wolf, getting that message wouldn't think immediately of what happened, of course, at Virginia Tech and in Blacksburg. Just a chilling message. And once again, you know, that whole notion of having to shelter in place, we should point out that since then they've told employees who are outside of Building 44 where the cordon is and where the SWAT team is, they've told the remainder of the employees on the campus there that when it comes time for their workday to be over, they are free and safe to go home. But you know, given what happened there and the whole issues as well as about notification of people, I'm sure that was not only chilling, it was a confusing message because, you know, what do you do? What does this mean? What are the implications? Is there something that is more widespread than we are first given indication of?
I guess it's also indicative of the deep concern in the aftermath of Virginia Tech that once an incident like this starts, you got to move very, very quickly and responsibly in alerting everyone that there's a potential danger out there, and you have to take quick action. When they say that the news is reporting that all the occupants have been evacuated, but there were shots fired. Those words clearly would be very, very disturbing.
Yes, they would. And yes, I mean, clearly it is the prudent and wise thing to do to let people know as quickly as possible in these situations. But I'm sure that, you know, one of the things that security often grapples with is causing unnecessary fear and panic as a result of something like this. So, when you read a message like that, given what has happened in the world, you have to wonder what the ripples of fear that went through the Johnson Space Center as they considered what the possibilities were, and imagine also, having a loved one inside there, a mother, or whatever, wondering what was going on as this all unfolded. It was very difficult to get a hold of people inside there for quite some time. I'm sure that's still the case. I'm still having a hard time reaching some people.
And we're standing by for a news conference from NASA down at the Johnson Space Center. We expect that to begin soon. We'll have live coverage here in the Situation Room. Miles, we have another NASA spokesman. Allard Butel is joining us now on the phone from NASA headquarters here in Washington. Allard Butel, thanks very much for helping us better understand what's going on. What do you know? What can you tell us?
I think you've been covering it pretty well. I can let you know that at least from here in Washington, we have stood up what we call our Emergency Operations Center. That's say during the Katrina hurricane a couple of years ago, we had that was stood up to help with not only the Kennedy Space Center, Johnson Space Center, and Stennis Space Center in Mississippi, and then our Michoud assembly facility out in that makes the big orange external fuel tanks for the shuttle in Louisiana. The Emergency Operations Center is now up and running, and we're getting additional information in there just to help coordinate this effort and provide any support we can. But right now, since this is an ongoing situation, it's still entirely in the hands of the Johnson Security and the Houston Police Department. We're approaching 3 hours of this situation, this standoff unfolding there. Mr. Butel, what do you know about shots being fired, about hostages being held, about supposedly a contractor who's responsible for all of this? What, if anything, can you share with us? Well, I wish I had answers to every single thing you just asked, and I think we will eventually have that information. But right now, we're getting the information. Nothing has been confirmed from the Houston Police, and since they have still cordoned off that building and are still in charge of the situation, I'm not able to confirm whether it's an individual or individuals, whether it was a gun. I mean, I've seen the information you have. I don't even know whether that was confirmed through the Houston Police. So unfortunately, we're still rolling as you guys are with the information as it comes in live. Miles O'Brien is with us as well. Miles, I'm sure you want to ask Mr. Butel a question.
Well, Alan, in a situation like this, what is headquarters' role in all of this, and what can you do in Washington to assist the folks in Houston? Well, at least at the moment, since it's an active, I don't want to say crime, but at least an active situation down there, it's still going to be handled immediately out of Houston. NASA will support. Houston Mission Control will help with any federal assistance if there's any, in the sense of providing support federal agencies, if there's through whether it's the FBI or whatever it might come down the line. It's more of a coordination right now. This isn't something like a natural disaster where we can step in and coordinate the supplies coming in and satellite phones for communication and basic water and stuff. And this is not that kind of situation. Employees are, if their day's over, they're being allowed to go home now. So it's not quite that sort of situation we had with Katrina or say something as horrible as a shuttle accident. And Alan, can you first of all just quickly, is the NASA administrator Mike Griffin aware? Yes, absolutely. Yep. When you say you stood up this emergency response center, who populates that, and what are they hearing at all from the scene? What's your point of communication? Oh, they are in contact again with other federal agencies, the White House, members of Congress, staffers. It's the kind of the legislative and the executive branch conduit for information for them. They're in contact with security and management down in Houston. It's populated by, as you can imagine, emergency operations, pretty much standard emergency operations personnel from infrastructure, IT, for any information we may get on our websites for employees to keep them updated. It's populated with managers and liaisons to various to both Congress and to the White House as well. So it's again right now it's in a support role because the focus is clearly still in Houston. I just want to ask Mr. Allard, Mr. Butel, to weigh in on this report that we're getting from our affiliate KTRK. I don't know if you can add anything, but police are telling our affiliate that there is this man inside this building, Building 44, with a gun, and they cannot account for all the employees in the building. Have you been told that?
I have not been able to either confirm that information or even whether it's true or not. I apologize.
But you can't confirm, based on the latest information that you have, is that this situation continues unresolved.
The last information that I have just a few minutes ago was yes, it was still an ongoing situation.
The whole notion of contractors working there, and there are a lot more contractors than NASA employees, Mr. Butel, who work at the Johnson Space Center. I assume, and you know this, Miles knows this a lot better than I do, they have to go through extensive background checks in order to be qualified to work at such a sensitive location.
At any actually government facility, NASA does have primarily, at least I can tell you in the human spaceflight side, primarily it's about 90% contractors or from private companies, and 10% federal workers. It's a vast majority contractors. But honestly, when you get in a situation like we have at NASA, you really don't tell the contractors from the civil servants that there really is not much of a difference in the sense of how you work with them. They're trusted employees like everybody else. But again, I can't even confirm that this is a contractor or a civil servant, or if there is an individual. I just, at this particular moment, it's just too fluid, so I apologize.
Has this incident affected any of NASA's operations underway right now involving astronauts, the International Space Station, anything along those lines?
No, we are. That's the one bit of good news I can say, at least right now, with the International Space Station and Mission Control. It's several blocks away from this particular building. The operations are going on as usual. Of course, they're keeping aware. They're keeping track of this. Nobody's going home if they don't have to be. I think people are keeping at their station, and we are preparing to return 3 astronauts from the space station early tomorrow morning. So we've got we had ourselves a little bit of news preparing ourselves just less than 24 hours from now, and now we have this situation going on.
But this is not affecting the return of those astronauts.
It is not. They are going to return. The plan is still to return them and land in Kazakhstan at 8:30 Eastern time tomorrow morning.
And so I take it Building 44, as important as it may be, an engineering building there, is not directly involved in any of the ongoing operations.
Actually, it's not a. It does provide engineering support for tracking of spacecraft, but it's not for real-time operations. Say as mission control. It's a support building, primarily office spaces, is my understanding, but they do have some labs there as well. But no, it is not the ongoing operations. Say that mission control is. It's still up. Mission control is still up and running fine.
I want to remind our viewers we're standing by for a news conference from NASA at the Johnson Space Center with presumably more information, more specific information on what has been unfolding. We're getting close to 3 hours of this standoff continuing. Miles O'Brien is still with us. Miles, do you have any other questions you want to ask Allard Butel, the NASA spokesman from NASA headquarters here in Washington?
Well, Ellen, I'm curious, too, how the word filtered up to headquarters and what the reaction was there when you heard about this one, especially in light of what we've seen this past week in Virginia.
Well, I'll tell you, I was surprised. There's no question about that, and then made an immediate phone call down to Houston to confirm this. And by then, they had been getting at least in my office. I'm not the be-all and end-all of NASA by any means, but by the time I'd called down to talk to my colleagues in Houston, they were already being inundated with phone calls themselves. So, needless to say, it was quite an unexpected surprise for a Friday afternoon.
It's a sad situation unfolding right now. I want to thank Allard Butel for helping us better appreciate what's going on. Before I let you go, Mr. Butel, one final question on NASA security as opposed to Houston Police, the Houston Police Department, which of course is on the scene, a SWAT team. What is the role of NASA security in an incident like this?
I honestly don't know the details that I could talk about it since we are a federal facility, but it is complimentary, and I know that they are involved in this. And again, they were Houston, the NASA Johnson Space Center security was the first to get the phone call, as you'd expect, being a federal facility. They're the first ones that got notified, and then immediately, the Houston police responded as well.
Allard Butel, a spokesman for NASA headquarters here in Washington. We'll check back with you and get more information as it becomes available. Thank you very much. And once again, we're standing by for this news conference. We expect it to begin fairly soon, at least that's what we're told, a news conference in which we're hoping to get some more specific details on what's going on. There is an individual with a gun holed up right now on the second floor of Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. We also have confirmed now, according to local police, that shots were fired. There are 2 employees, or at least some employees, who have worked in that building who are not accounted for. Let's go to the news conference right now.
Is everybody up? Let me know when you're ready. Are you good? All right, guys, let me just kind of tell you where we are. Let me confirm for you what I can, and then I'll take your questions after that. Shortly before 2 o'clock this afternoon, we received a call in the Houston Police Department regarding possible shots fired here in the NASA complex. Our patrol units arrived. They were met with security personnel of both NASA as well as some of the constable's office. They took some preliminary information, determined that a suspect was still possibly inside the building. They then made a call out to SWAT. Our SWAT team is now here. They have taken control of the inner perimeter, and they are working with our other partners in the FBI. We have the constables out here as well as the fire department. But what we believe at this point is that we have one suspect, a white male, approximately 50 to 60 years old, with one weapon, that being a handgun, and I cannot confirm for you whether that's a revolver or a semi-automatic or what caliber at this time. But our SWAT team members are here, their negotiators are here. We do not know if there's another person inside with this suspect, and I cannot confirm whether or not we've established communication because we're still in the throes of that as I speak. Let me stop there and take whatever questions you have.
Any idea what his motive was, sir?
No, I have no idea what his motive is. We don't even have confirmed who he is or communication.
Employees are unaccounted for right now.
I can't confirm whether any employees are unaccounted for. What I can tell you is that our personnel, they're working with NASA authorities to determine the whereabouts of all their employees. They have, I believe, called the end of work day here at NASA, and our SWAT team members have gone through their procedures of clearing the immediate area, but I'm still waiting on confirmation for that.
Have you developed communication with this gentleman?
No, we have not developed communication yet. Yes, sir. Yes, we can confirm that, at least from the initial reports, that there were 2 shots fired. According to one employee here at NASA, he actually saw the suspect. That's why I can give you information on that. And he indicated that he heard 2 shots and actually saw the gun and the suspect.
Was anyone hit, sir?
No, I cannot confirm whether anybody's been hit. Nobody's been able to say.
Have paramedics treated anybody for any injuries?
No, HFD has not treated anybody that I'm aware of.
Captain, some people have reported that he went into a conference room and ordered everybody out but one person. Do you know if that's so?
At this point, we believe he is in one of the rooms. He's barricaded himself in that room, but we're not going to know anything more until we establish communication. No, not that's been reported to me. I'm sorry? No, not at this point. Yes, sir.
How many officers are here at this point? How many Houston police officers?
You know, that'd be a wild guess to tell you how many officers are here. What I can tell you is that we have our first responders patrol here. They're working with NASA security officials as well as the constables in securing the outer perimeter. We have our SWAT team members established on the inner perimeter, our negotiators trying to establish communication. We are still bringing equipment to the scene, so it's still an active scene.
Jacobs Engineering is telling us that he's an employee of theirs. Can you confirm whether he works for Jacobs Engineering?
I cannot confirm. I might be able to in a little bit, but at this point, I cannot confirm.
Are you sure he's still alive?
At this point, I can't tell you a whole lot because we have not established communication, and whether or not he's alive or dead, I simply don't know.
You know what shot at, Captain? The employee said that the gun was shot at when he shot it?
The object of those first 2 shots, do not know. I don't know if they were just shot in the ground, up through the ceiling, at somebody in particular. Don't know.
It clearly looks like he knew where he was going, right? I mean, was he targeting Building 44?
I don't know. And I wasn't there. I'm not the one that saw him, so I can't tell you what his motive or focus was.
It would appear he knows this area.
I don't know. That'd be speculation on my part to say what he knows and what he does not know. Yes, sir.
What, do you know if those shots were fired in or out? And do you know how he was able to bring a gun onto a facility where you're not supposed to have a weapon?
The shots that were fired were inside the building, on the complex. That is what's been reported. I don't know about any security precautions here at NASA. Eileen might be able to speak to that. Do you want her to speak to that now, or do we have some other questions?
He's on the second floor.
I don't know where he is in the building, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you because that'd be a tactical error for our SWAT team members. Have any police officers seen him yet? No. The only report of an observation has come from an employee here at NASA.
You have a number of heavy equipment being brought in. What is that equipment?
Let me go with this one first.
What's the challenges to establishing communication?
Well, initially getting close enough to speak with the individual. If he refuses to speak, then putting up the equipment, whether it be speaker, phones, or some other means to communicate him with that, and assuming he's willing to communicate. Those are the barriers.
Have you tried to communicate with him?
Yes, our negotiators have tried to communicate both at the close level, but they've been unsuccessful so far.
The heavy equipment that's brought in, what is that for?
The heavy equipment are going to be our command post, the vehicles that our command staff is going to work out of as they go about trying to bring a successful resolution.
Captain, how large of an area have you blocked off at this point?
Well, right now our focus is the building because we believe the suspect's in the building, but obviously the immediate area around it.
Do you have armored vehicles here too?
We do have armored vehicles here as well as other equipment that might be called upon, but not necessarily because we'll have to use it.
Captain, did you guys ask NASA to release the rest of the employees on campus here early today?
I'm sorry?
Did you guys ask NASA to release the rest of the employees early today because of this?
No, I think that was a question that NASA... Eileen, why don't you address that?
It's Hawley, Hawley. We did initially issue a communication to our employees to let them know what was going on site. In the initial communication that went out, we advised them to shelter in place until we had a firm understanding of the situation. By email. We sent email out through a variety of mechanisms that we have. In addition, our human resource representatives called all of our major directorate offices to ensure that they would get the word out to their employees. 1 second. And then we sent out a second email telling our employees that there was no need for them to shelter in place, that the situation was confined to this one area, and told them that they were free to go home at their normal quitting time or any time that they desired to do that. I'll have to get it for you, Mark. I don't recall what time we sent that out. I haven't looked recently. They were released to go home if their vehicles were in a spot where they could get to them and not in an area that's coordinated off.
How many are we talking about?
I don't have a count for you. I can get that for you, though.
Are your employees in Building 44 accounted for?
I don't know. I believe Captain Reddy already answered that question. We don't know whether we have anyone unaccounted for. In 44? I don't know. We can check. We've heard talk about it.
Eileen, security guards about an hour and a half ago were getting pictures, photocopying pictures. What they were told was a suspect. Can you tell me about that? Why they were getting that? Were they afraid that the suspect might slip and drag them?
Let me address that one because we have the law enforcement side. I don't know which pictures you're referring to or which ones have come. I'd have to look at them myself and talk to the incident commander to determine whether or not they have anything to do either with identifying employees or the possible suspect or anything else. But I haven't seen them, so it's hard to say.
You guys haven't distributed pictures?
No, we have not distributed. No, we have not. Yes, sir.
Way out of the building, like I've heard there might be like even tunnels.
You know, I don't know what the ends, the entrance and the exits to the building are, but even if I did, again, I would not be releasing that kind of information because of the type of scene that we have and because it's still active. Did somebody else have a question for Eileen? Oh, I'm sorry.
The gentleman who saw him today, was he an employee of NASA?
Yes.
All right. Does he know who he saw?
I don't know because that question has not been asked and I haven't been able to get it from the incident commander.
Captain, how many people normally work in that building?
Do you know, Eileen?
I don't know if we can find
We don't. We'll find that out.
It might be premature to ask, but is it safe to say that you will be reviewing your security after this incident?
Reviewing security in terms of the incident in general, or the fact that that a weapon was brought on site?
I understand that no vehicles or people are ever searched. Is this something that you'll be looking into, whether or not you change that?
We have a standard set of security rules that do include random vehicle searches, and so there are searches of vehicles at random times and of employees. Certainly, I would believe that our security and our senior leadership is going to take a very close look at this incident and see if there was anything that we should have done or could have done differently.
Captain, can you tell us whether you're communicating with the suspect's family, loved ones at all?
No, I can't because I can't even tell you who the suspect is at this point.
Eileen, has this disrupted any procedures at NASA? I understand that was part of a tracking building. Has this disrupted anything to do with ISF or normal operations?
No, sir. Absolutely no disruptions to center operations.
Is there anything to suggest that he has any weapon other than a gun where he might be a threat to others still, even though the building is guarded?
The question was, do we believe the suspect has access to any other weapons at this time? The answer is no. The only thing that's been reported, the only thing we believe at this point is that he's armed with a handgun. But I will tell you that our SWAT team members, all officers, always assume that there may be other weapons. So Yes, sir.
We've even heard that the bomb squad has been requested. Can you talk to that?
That may be part of our regular protocol that I will not go into, because those are strategic types of policy concerns that we don't necessarily want out there, especially in a case like this, where if the suspect has any access to the media, then we will be giving up information.
Is there a normal complement of ambulances with this SWAT team, or we're seeing a couple, I think, plus a fire engine?
Now that I can't speak to. That is normal protocol. Whenever SWAT team members respond, HFD also responds with both fire apparatuses, including ambulances. Let me just take one more question, and then, guys, we're going to have to shut it down, and I'll go back and get some information regarding what you've already asked that we did not know.
When's your next briefing?
We'll be here. It'll probably be at 5 o'clock. So if y'all can stand by till then, we'll try to get you some more information. Well, obviously to where you are right here, and then take a radius all the way around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that's Captain Dwayne Reddy of the Houston Police Department briefing us on what we know, what we don't know. Clearly, there's a lot that all of us do not know. The police might know a lot more than they're telling us right now, but he's limiting what he can say. Miles O'Brien, you listened to all of this very closely together with all of our viewers. A very disturbing situation unfolding. It's been now 3 hours or so since a gunman was in that building 44 in the Johnson Space Center, and shots were fired. This captain of the Houston Police Department has now confirmed no word of injuries, but clearly it's a very disturbing situation, especially given what happened at the campus of Virginia Tech earlier in the week.
Yeah, especially that, Wolf. I think we're all kind of rattled by that. Not kind of rattled. We're deeply rattled by it. But I think, really at this point, this could be anywhere from a full-blown hostage situation to a suicide at this point, and we don't know. We do know that there is at least one man inside a room there, inside Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center. And as to his state and well-being and whether he is alive or not, we don't know. And whether there is somebody else in there, we do not know, because there's not so much as the first bit of communication between him and the SWAT team. Of course, the SWAT teams have all kinds of technology and capability at hand to determine if that is in fact the case, if somebody is in there, and if there's more than one person in there. I'm sure they'll find that out pretty quickly. But given what has transpired so far, we really, it's hard to know the full dimensions of this story and how long it will be before it could be resolved one way or another.
And it's still continuing. The suspect described as someone between 50 and 60 years old with a weapon, a handgun, unclear whether that's some sort of semi-automatic handgun or what, but clearly a handgun in and of itself is very, very disturbing. We're also getting reports, Miles, that at least there are some unaccounted for individuals who normally would be working in that building that may or may not mean anything, given the fact that this is Friday. Some individuals might simply leave work early, and as a result, they're unaccounted for. But that at least was chilling when I heard that.
Yeah, and I think, let's not put too much into that, because it's not as if it's not like going into a mine where you know exactly the number of people inside, and when they check out, they make it very clear that they've left, and when they go in, they make it clear that they're there. It's not that kind of security level either, where they'd be signing in and signing out at the door. So it could very well be some people just knocking off work early, maybe getting caught playing hooky a little bit on a Friday, or for whatever reason had a good reason to leave and didn't necessarily notify everybody. So it's almost impossible to pull that kind of information together in a quick fashion. So I think that let's put that in the realm of facts we are checking, and should not raise too much alarm at this point. Of course, given the fact that we have a fair amount of alarm, given the fact of what's going on there, but nevertheless, I think we need to take that with a bit of a grain of salt.
And I believe the captain from the Houston Police Department, I'm looking at my notes, said that 2 shots were fired earlier. There had been some reports saying as many as 5 or 6 or 7, but he says 2 shots. You heard that, right, Miles?
Yeah, 2 shots was the number, and that was less than we heard from some previous reports. And we'll put that also in the category of how frequently early reports from these situations tend to be inaccurate, and we ask our viewers to just bear with us on that as we try to learn the story together.
And the SWAT team that's been brought in from the Houston Police Department, They have, according to the Captain Reddy of the Houston Police Department, negotiators whose job it is to try to talk to this individual and resolve it peacefully. That's what they train for. That's what they do. And presumably they're trying to do this right now to end this standoff in a peaceful way without any lives or anyone being hurt.
Exactly. And, just opening up that dialogue is the key. And what any negotiator will tell you is the thing that is most important is to keep the hostage taker, if there is a hostage taker, or the barricade person, keep them talking and find ways to get to them and to try to break down the wall and the barriers that are there. But a lot of it for them is just getting that conversation going and keeping it going. But so far, we have no reports that there is a conversation, and that in and of itself could be rather troubling, or it could mean that this is already all over and we just don't know it yet, that he has taken his own life.
And it's been now 3 hours almost exactly since this incident happened. I want to read to our viewers, Miles, once again, the initial email that NASA sent out to its employees at the Johnson Space Center, thousands of them who are working on this Friday. You may be aware that there is a situation in B44, Building 44, where a person has a gun. The news is reporting that all the occupants have been evacuated, but there were shots fired. Houston Police Department is responding. There is a lockdown of B44 and 4 adjacent buildings only. Residents of all other buildings are advised to shelter in place until further notice. The roads around B44 are blocked. Now, since that initial email went out, the shelter in place for all of the other buildings on this huge campus, that went away. But I was struck at how quickly NASA moved to send out this email, and I assume they were at least in part influenced by the complaints that happened at Virginia Tech, that it took too long to send out an email to the students, the faculty, the administrators about that initial shooting incident early Monday morning, 7:15 or so. Took them a couple hours before they sent out any email warning that there was a problem.
Yes, Wolf, and I think, part of this, there's a couple things. First of all, of course, in the wake of Blacksburg, everybody is attuned to how important it is to get the word out for a lot of good reasons. If nothing else, to explain later that you were acting as quickly as possible to protect your people. But there's a couple other things to consider here. First of all, at a place like NASA, email is a very effective way to reach just about everybody, because just about everybody is constantly on or near their computer screens and working in ways that would put them very close to their email or their BlackBerries or whatever the case may be. And so it is an effective means in this case. And I think the other thing to consider, too, is that NASA, because of the nature of the work there, because of the sometimes hazardous nature of the work there, is frankly an organization that is a little bit more spring-loaded to respond to emergencies. There's hazardous materials there. There are things that can blow up there. There's fires that can occur just in the nature of doing their business with the volatile chemicals that they deal with. And so safety is such an important factor in everything they do, and is so much a part of the drill, if you will, more so than it would be at any typical, open university, that I think, that this is an organization that when things happen, they respond quickly because they have the mechanisms there, they drill for it, and the lines of communication are already there.
I want to show a Google Earth image of Building 44, Miles, and we're going to zoom in on the location of the Johnson Space Center and get our viewers a sense of where this building is, what's going on. There you see it right there, but if you see it's part of a much bigger complex, a complex you visited on numerous occasions.
Yes, and Wolf, I got to be frank with you, it's not a building I visited. It's not one of the buildings that typically a TV news crew would be terribly interested in, with mostly offices, a few small laboratories. At that facility, the facility you see the most on television is Building 9, which is pretty far away from there, and that's one of the primary astronaut training facilities. That's where they have all sorts of mock-ups of the space shuttle and the robot arm on the space shuttle, as well as the International Space Station. And astronauts spend a lot of time there drilling for missions and learning what the real hardware is going to be like and what the procedures are going to be like. Building 1 right at the center is the administration building. Building 2 right beside it is the public affairs office. And then Building 4 which is adjacent to the administration building, is where the astronaut offices are. And all those are a fairly good distance away from Building 44. And as I say, on the well-worn path for folks in the media, Building 44 is not a stop that I've been on.
Stand by for a moment, Miles. Lou Dobbs is joining us right now as well. Lou is someone who's covered the space program for many, many years. Lou, what do you think about this unfolding drama?
Well, it is, as Miles has been saying, this is a very secure facility, as you would expect, and also it is an expansive facility. And I've been trying to rack my brain as to whether I've been through Building 44 because it's off Space Park. But there is some very important engineering labs there and communications for not only the space shuttle but for the space station. Companies like contractors like Jacobs Engineering, Johnson Engineering, some of the contractors whose labs I've been through there, I believe are located in that building. So with all that has been happening in this space program and the difficulties that they've had, it is remarkable to see, and of course tragic to see this happening. It is hard to believe, though, I say, the security there is so tight for even a contractor with all of the documentation and badges to get into that facility with a gun is stunning to me.
This complex does have good security, but once you get on the complex, Lou, especially if you're a NASA employee or a NASA contractor, you can basically roam around free and easy.
I think that's correct, but again, security is literally at every building in that facility. I've been there to go through light training, to sit in the space shuttle mock-ups, to go through some of the instrumentation testing, some of the equipment testing. It is really a very well organized and secure facility. This is not a run-of-the-mill industrial complex, I assure you.
I know you're getting ready to pick up our coverage right at the top of the hour. What do you have on the agenda?
Well, Wolf, we're obviously, like you, we're going to continue the coverage of this standoff in Houston. We'll be talking with Miles O'Brien and the NASA officials there trying to deal with this situation. We'll also tonight be reporting on the escalating political confrontation over the conduct of this war in Iraq. The Senate Majority Leader has said the United States has lost this war. The White House saying it's outright wrong. The generals in charge of our military operations in Iraq with quite different views from those of the White House. And we'll be covering all of that as Republicans and Democrats are raising the call for the resignation of Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. All the day's news, all of that coming up here at the top of the hour, Wolf.
All right, about 8 minutes from now, Lou, thank you very much. Miles O'Brien is still with us. We heard from Allard Butel, Miles, the NASA spokesman at NASA headquarters here in Washington, that so far this incident at Building 44 has not disrupted any of the work of NASA, especially as it gets ready to help in bringing back a crew of 5, including an American space tourist, Charles Simonyi, who've been on the International Space Station, which is very, very good news that they can continue their mission, they can continue their operation even in the midst of this drama. Yeah, well, there's things to think about. First of all, yes, the Mission Control building, first of all, is one of the most secure buildings. It is, I can say it is the most secure building at that facility. Getting in there is more difficult than most. The layers of security there are tremendous for obvious reasons. Couple things to also consider, though, is that they're returning, that 3-member crew is returning on a Russian Soyuz capsule. And that is controlled by Russian Mission Control in the Moscow suburb of Koyelev. And so the primary control rests in the hands of the Russians. Now, the Space Station Control Center is in Mission Control in Houston, and so there is a coordination which goes on between the space station and the Russian Control Center as well. But the primary responsibility for bringing that Soyuz craft, Charles Simonyi and the other 2, back to Earth safely is, in fact, the Russians. It's interesting, Wolf, if it had not been for a quirk of weather, they would already be home by now. They got an extra day in space because of some flooding in the steppes of Kazakhstan. And as a result of that, they decided to wait one more day, which offered them a more southerly landing location for that Soyuz capsule. And so they would have already been on the ground normally had it not been
for some rain in Kazakhstan. So it's interesting how fate kind of deals a hand.
But there's no reason at all to fear that what's happened in that one isolated building at the Johnson Space Center is going to have any impact on bringing these guys back to Kazakhstan.
No, I mean, Mission Control is designed, people that you see in Mission Control sitting in the so-called trenches there on those consoles are talking to people in other offices to back themselves up and support. But this particular office has no real-time responsibility. In other words, there's nobody there on a headset communicating with the people on the front lines there in Mission Control that would offer any sort of mission-critical capability. This is the kind of research that isn't involved in, it's involved in future missions, but not involved in the current mission. And as a result, we should need not worry about the crew on the space station or the crew headed back on the Soyuz.
And the man in the dark suit there right in the middle of the screen is Charles Simoni. He's the American space tourist who's been spending a few days up there at the International Space Station. He's cost him a lot of money to go up there, didn't it, Miles?
Yeah, it's about a $20 million trip, and for 10 days, and he got an extra bonus day. I don't think they charge him any extra for that, so I'm sure he's happy he got the extra day. But yes, that's the ultimate e-ticket ride there.
It's not a cheap venture, but if you can afford it and you like that kind of stuff, that's what you do, and that's what Charles Simoni has done. He clearly can afford to spend that kind of money for a ticket. Let's get back to the situation, Miles, what's happening on the ground. And I just want to update our viewers. It's a nerve-wracking situation because it's been going on now for more than 3 hours. The standoff at Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center. A man walks in. He's armed. Shots were fired. Houston police saying 2 shots were fired. We do not know if anyone was injured. There is a report that there are some individuals who are unaccounted for, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're still in the building. They could have left early. They could be someplace else on this Friday afternoon in Houston. It's all very worrisome, especially because of what happened earlier in the week at Virginia Tech. And as a result, it underscores the jittery sense that so many campuses have. And Miles, it's an issue that law enforcement has been worried about. They've been discussing openly over these past few days whether or not there's a copycat out there, although in this particular case, we don't know enough about this suspect described as someone between 50 and 60 years old to come to any such conclusions.
Well, it's interesting, Wolf. This whole notion of copycats becomes a real issue. Not only are we on the heels of what happened in Blacksburg at Virginia Tech, but we're right in the midst of the Columbine anniversary and also the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing at the Murrah Federal Building. And so law enforcement authorities pay attention to those dates because that would provide an opportunity for either a copycat or some sort of twisted commemorative attack. And these things, as they happen, you have to ask those questions if that was in some way a motivator that would cause somebody to do something and try to do harm to others.
I want to play for our viewers what Houston Police Department Captain Dwayne Reddy said only a few moments ago. Listen to this.
Shortly before 2 o'clock this afternoon, we received a call in the Houston Police Department regarding possible shots fired here in the NASA complex. Our patrol units arrived. They were met with security personnel of both NASA as well as some of the constable's office. They took some preliminary information, determined that a suspect was still possibly inside the building. They then made a call out to SWAT. Our SWAT team is now here. They have taken control of the inner perimeter, and they are working with our other partners in the FBI. We have the constables out here as well as the fire department. But what we believe at this point is that we have one suspect, a white male, approximately 50 to 60 years old, with one weapon, that being a handgun, and I cannot confirm for you whether that's a revolver or a semi-automatic or what caliber at this time.
That's the captain from the Houston Police Department. Also, in a series of questions, he could not confirm that the individual, the suspect, was a contractor who may be employed over at the Johnson Space Center. Couldn't confirm or say anything really about whether or not anyone had been injured. They're continuing to watch this story, although what is encouraging, I suspect, Miles, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's still going on. It has not been resolved. And as a result, maybe those SWAT team negotiators are in contact with this individual, and they're going to try to resolve it through a discussion.
Well, yeah, or it could be that he has taken his own life and possibly taken someone else's life, and they just have not learned that yet. But that's all within the range of possibility, given what we know and what the police have released. And as is often the case, I'm sure there's a lot more they know right now that they're sharing with us, Wolf.
Miles is going to continue to stand by for our coverage. We're going to watch this drama unfold here on CNN, and let's hope and pray that it resolves itself peacefully. There's no indication that anyone has been injured so far, although the police, the Houston Police Department, are saying that at least two shots were fired in this incident. We're also told we're going to be getting another update from authorities in Houston at the Johnson Space Center. That's coming up in an hour or so from now, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a lot more coverage of this story coming up in the Situation Room at 7 p.m. Eastern. Lou Dobbs, which is coming up in just a few seconds, he's going to be all over this story as well. We're watching it from all angles. We want to make sure that you know what we know as authoritatively and as responsibly as we have it. Until then, thanks very much for joining us. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. Lou Dobbs is continuing our coverage. Lou?
Well, thank you. Tonight, a standoff between police and a gunman at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. We'll have the very latest for you as we continue to follow this breaking news story. Also tonight, Senator Harry Reid, he is insisting that the war in Iraq has been lost. The White House says he's wrong. We'll have complete coverage from Washington and Baghdad. More Republicans calling for the resignation of Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. Can Gonzales resist this increasing pressure to quit his job? We'll have a special report. We'll be joined by three of the country's best political analysts and strategists. And today, a national day of remembrance for victims of the Virginia Tech shooting rampage. Church services, candlelight vigils from coast to coast. We'll have a live report tonight from Virginia Tech. All of the day's news, much more, and our continuing coverage of the standoff at Johnson Space Center. All of that straight ahead here tonight.
This is Lou Dobbs Tonight. News, debate, and opinion for Friday, April 20th. Live from New York, Lou Dobbs.
Good evening, everybody. A gunman tonight is barricaded in Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. There are reports that 2 shots have been fired. Security officials at the NASA Space Center have evacuated the building. Police and NASA officials do not know whether anyone other than the gunman is in that building at this hour.
What we believe at this point is that we have one suspect, a white male, approximately 50 to 60 years old, with one weapon, that being a handgun, and I cannot confirm for you whether that's a revolver or a semi-automatic or what caliber at this time. But our SWAT team members are here, their negotiators are here. We do not know if there's another person inside with this suspect, and I cannot confirm whether or not we've established communication because we're still in the throes of that as I speak.
And at this hour, we do not have an identification of the person in this standoff. Again, reportedly entering the building 44, which is a engineering laboratory and communications laboratory, primarily used by contractors and subcontractors at the Johnson Space Center. As you can see there, an expansive, far-flung facility. One, however, that typically has very tight security. That security has, of course, been tightened since these reports of gunshots. And we're going to turn now, a NASA spokeswoman articulating just what she knows about the situation as of just a few moments ago.
We did initially issue a communication to our employees to let them know what was going on site. In the initial communication that went out, we advised them to shelter in place until we had a firm understanding of the situation. By email. We sent email out through a variety of mechanisms that we have. In addition, our human resource representatives called all of our major directorate offices to ensure that they would get the word out to their employees. 1 second. And then we sent out a second email telling our employees that there was no need for them to shelter in place, that the situation was confined to this one area, and told them that they were free to go home at their normal quitting time or any time that they desired to do that. I'll have to get it for you, Mark. I don't recall what time we sent that out. I haven't looked recently. They were released to go home if their vehicles were in a spot where they could get to them and not in an area that's coordinated off.
How many?
I don't have a count for you. I can get that for you, though.
Are your employees in Building 44 accounted for?
I don't know. I believe Captain Reddy already answered that question. We don't know whether we have anyone unaccounted for.
And this video coming to you live, our affiliate KHOU Houston, Texas, bringing this video and these pictures of the area immediately in front of Building 44, where a man who has in some reports been described as in his 50s, and also a man who is not identified certainly by name at this point, but who authorities now believe is an employee of one of the contractors there at NASA. I'm joined now by CNN's space and technology correspondent Miles O'Brien, who spent a great deal of time at this facility over the course of the past number of years. Miles, what can you tell us right now?
Well, let me just make it clear, Lou, that this, first of all, is not having any impact on the International Space Station or any space operations. As you well know, Lou, the Mission Control Center there, which is across the street in a parking lot from Building 44, is perhaps the most heavily secured building on that campus, that sprawling campus there, 25 miles south of downtown Houston. And this facility, this Building 44, primarily contains offices and a few small labs, which is engineering support for future missions, not at all linked into current missions. What I've been being told is by people who work there that this employee is actually an employee of a contractor, and as you all know, Lou, the vast majority of people who we would call NASA employees are actually employees of Boeing or United Space Alliance or Johnson Engineering or any of these big contractors, especially in the manned space program, that do the real hands-on work on getting these spacecraft to orbit. And that is, so really the chances are about 90% that it is a contractor, and I've been told that and gotten confirmation of that fact from a couple of sources. At this point, though, there's a full range of possibilities as to what this could be, up to and including a hostage situation, a full-blown hostage situation. Could be somebody who was, for whatever reason, distraught and took his own life, or could have taken his life and as well as maybe another life or caused another injury. We don't know that just yet because last we heard from the SWAT team and the authorities was they had not established any sort of communication with him. So much is cloudy at this point.
And Miles, if you would stand by there with us, we're going to go to James Hartsfield, who is the NASA spokesman. He's on the phone with us and has the latest for us from Johnson Space Center. Mr. Hartsfield, have we learned anything more either about the identity of the person with the gun, the number of shots, if there were indeed shots fired, and as to whether or not there have been any injuries?
No, really, we have no additional details above what was released by the police about a half hour ago. At this point, the situation continues, and we have really not learned more information.
Do you have, and I know this is difficult, but do you have any idea as to whether or not all of your employees, all of the contractor employees that would typically be in Building 44 have been successfully evacuated from the building?
No, as was stated in the briefing earlier by the police, we don't have that confirmed yet. So we cannot tell you for sure one way or the other on that.
And Mr. Hartsfield, the early reports are that the Houston SWAT teams have taken up position and have what is described as the inner perimeter of that area of Johnson Space Center secured. Is that accurate to the best of your knowledge?
That is what the police reported earlier. So, and they are in control of the scene. So.
All right. Well, James Hartsfield, we thank you very much. James Hartsfield, NASA spokesman, coming to us from Johnson Space Center. We appreciate it. Miles, at this point, there is remarkably little information about what is actually happening there. Your thoughts at this point?
Well, I think, it's a couple things. First of all, as you well know, Lou, this particular facility, property that was owned in the 1960s by Rice University, in many respects, as you look at these aerial pictures, it looks like a college campus. Well, that's no coincidence. It was built with that in mind, that maybe one day if Rice ever wanted to use it again as a college campus, they could do that. So It is a college campus, but it is not. And everybody's thinking, of course, about college campuses, given what we all saw unfold the first part of this week at Virginia Tech. This facility has hazardous materials inside. It has a secure perimeter. It is a sensitive government installation. And so people there are much more attuned to response for emergency drills, for safety drills, and also are more linked up to their email. So the response to this one and the way that NASA handles things like this, they're much more schooled in these kinds of operations, frankly, than any university is.
And NASA has made it very clear, again, and as you pointed out, no operation concerning the International Space Station is being jeopardized by these events that are transpiring right now at the Johnson Space Center. The idea that we still don't know how many employees were in that building, and that NASA does not know, nor have they been able to secure an accurate count of employees, that leaves obviously a lot of unpleasant ambiguity about what is going on there right now.
Yeah, it sure does. As you know, Lou, I mean, when you and I go in there, we go through a fairly strict vetting, and our ability to go walk in and out of buildings is limited, and we go with escorts. But once you have that badge, whether it's a contractor badge or the NASA civil servant's badge, that's pretty much an e-ticket ride for the entire complex. And so the people who go in and out who are employees have, pretty fluid and open access. They maintain that campus atmosphere. It's not like working at one of the national laboratories where there's layer upon layer of tremendous security and classification levels and so forth. It's a pretty open feel once you're on the either contractor or civil servant role there, and you have access to the run of the campus pretty much to do your business. So it's secure on one sense, but once you get inside, it's also a pretty open place.
And the idea that this security at Building 44 would match that of any, for example, of the Operations Center or Mission Control, it would not be as secure as those buildings, certainly. And Miles, I appreciate your standing by. We're going to be obviously covering the story as developments come in here and as developments warrant. Miles O'Brien, our space and technology correspondent. Miles, as always, thank you very much. We're going to turn now to the political confrontation in Washington over the war. Republicans today blasting the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Harry Reid, for his declaration that the United States has lost the war in Iraq. The White House saying that Senator Reid's assessment directly contradicts the view of military commanders in Iraq. Andrea Koppel reports now from Capitol Hill.
Not once, but twice on the same day, Democratic leader Harry Reid went farther than he'd ever gone before.
As long as we follow the president's path in Iraq, the war is lost.
A blunt assessment of the war in Iraq, which Reid likened to Vietnam. He compared President Johnson's decision to send tens of thousands of U.S. troops off to war, even though Reid said Johnson knew the war could not be won, to a similar decision made this year by President Bush and his war cabinet.
Now, I believe myself that the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and you have to make your own decision as to what the president knows, that this war is lost.
It's a message Reid says he delivered in person to Mr. Bush on Wednesday, one that touched a nerve, according to a Democratic aide, who told CNN the president, quote, visibly stiffened his back.
Well, I don't know what Harry Reid's talking about.
As word of Reid's comments reverberated across the Capitol, Republicans went on the attack.
Senator Reid is playing to the worst elements of the anti-war left. That's part of, unfortunately, his political base.
House Republicans plan to devote the GOP's Saturday radio address to further criticism of Reid.
What message has he sent to al-Qaeda? Well, that's perfectly clear. He believes that al-Qaeda has won and that America has been defeated.
Now look for Republicans to continue this drumbeat next week. That's when the House and the Senate are set to vote on a final version of this emergency war funding bill, one that the president has said when it lands on his desk, if it contains a deadline or a goal for U.S. troops to withdraw, he'll veto it. Lou?
Andrea, thank you. Andrea Koppel from Capitol Hill. Defense Secretary Robert Gates said he strongly disagrees with Senator Reid's assessment, Secretary Gates is in Iraq meeting with American commanders. The military says it will know in the next few months whether the troop buildup or surge in Iraq has been successful. Jamie McIntyre reports now from the Pentagon.
With the Iraqis dying by the hundreds and U.S. casualties on the rise, hardly anyone argues the war in Iraq is going well. Remember Defense Secretary Robert Gates at his Senate confirmation just 4 months ago?
Mr. Gates, do you believe that we are currently winning in Iraq?
No, sir.
But Senator Harry Reid calling the war lost, as in lost cause, that's a different matter.
On the matter of whether the war is lost, I respectfully disagree.
Gates is fresh from Baghdad meetings with his top commanders, including David Petraeus, the general who wrote the Army manual on how to defeat insurgents. And Petraeus insists the tide is turning, slowly.
It's almost imperceptible at times, but that there was slow progress with the Baghdad security plan.
The problem is if Petraeus, in his heart, believed he had been dealt a losing hand, he couldn't admit it. No general could.
They can't say it publicly. They don't obviously want to undermine the troops.
Lawrence Korb is a diehard critic who believes Petraeus' new surge strategy might have worked 4 years ago, but not now.
The Bush goal of having a peaceful, stable Iraq that's going to be a beacon to all the countries in the Middle East is not going to happen.
But those who haven't given up on the war say that's defeatist rhetoric, that if repeated often enough can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It was Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld's favorite argument.
We're not going to lose a battle over there. It can only be lost in Washington, D.C. It's a test of wills, and they know that.
The reality is there's no way to know if the Iraq war is still winnable. In fact, even General Petraeus is not promising victory. He says he won't know if the surge is working until late in the summer. Lou?
Yeah, when the contest in Washington becomes a rhetorical exchange over whether this war is being lost or whether it is not being lost rather than how it's going to be won, it is discomforting at best for nearly everyone.
Well, the problem is once you say that you've been defeated, you are defeated in this kind of a conflict.
If this were only a war of words, it would be a great comfort to us all. Jamie, thank you very much. Jamie McIntyre from the Pentagon. The latest developments on the standoff between police and a gunman at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. We'll have continuing live coverage. We'll have the latest developments for you. And can Attorney General Alberto Gonzales survive in his post? Will he resist the rising pressure for his resignation? Our special report for you next from Capitol Hill. And today, a national day of mourning and remembrance for the victims of the worst shooting rampage in American history. A live report upcoming from Virginia Tech. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Wagner. You know, if you're frustrated by the quality of your sleep or because you have morning back pain, please give us a call right now. It won't cost you a thing except a minute of your time. We'll immediately send you this free video and brochure with all the details about this amazing bed, including complete descriptions of all our bed models, prices, and options. You'll have all the information you need to make a decision that can truly make a difference in your sleep.
It's been amazing the difference that the Sleep Number bed has made with my sleep personally. I have not woken up with back pain at all, not once since we've gotten it.
I switched from an innerspring mattress to a Sleep Number bed, and now I sleep better than ever.
It's the only bed I know of that's clinically proven to improve your sleep quality and relieve back pain. And it also costs about the same as a traditional innerspring mattress, yet it lasts twice as long. Now, like most of us, before I got my Sleep Number bed, I used to toss and turn during the night. I'd wake up, roll over, find a comfortable position, and then go back to sleep. But on a Sleep Number bed, I actually sleep all the way through the night. And I didn't realize I wasn't getting a good night's sleep until I experienced one on a Sleep Number bed. I also noticed that I have more stamina during the day, and I know it's because I'm getting a more recuperative sleep. So why don't you call us right now and see if it isn't true for you as well.
Call for your free information kit. Sleep Number beds are easy to own, coming in all standard sizes with queen-size mattresses starting as low as $20 a month. Learn about our 20-year limited warranty and risk-free 30-night in-home trial. Call 1-800-705-1894. On a Sleep Number bed by Select Comfort, you can fall asleep faster, sleep more soundly, and wake up more refreshed. Call 1-800-705-1894. We'll rush you this free video, brochure, and price list. That's 1-800-705-1894. The Sleep Number bed is the key to a perfect night's sleep. Call now.
CNN equals politics in the Situation Room. Number 1 in politics. Number 1 across America. Number 1 from 4 to 6 p.m. Watched more than Fox, more than MSNBC. CNN equals politics, and politics equals the Situation Room.
We are continuing to monitor that standoff in Houston at the Johnson Space Center. One man with a gun has moved into what is called Building 44, a communications and engineering building that has nothing to do with the actual operations of either the space station or the shuttle. It is a building that has been evacuated. However, NASA at this point does not know how many of its employees have exited that building. They do not know at this moment as to whether or not there are any NASA employees or contractors to NASA or their employees in that building. We are going to monitor this situation. We will bring you any development as it occurs. Again, a man entering Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center and reports of 2 shots fired. A rising number of Republican lawmakers tonight are now calling for the resignation of Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. Many Republicans were disappointed with the Attorney General's testimony in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday. They say Gonzales failed to adequately answer questions about his role in the abrupt, controversial firing of 8 U.S. attorneys. Dana Bash has the latest for us from Capitol Hill.
Recognize such time as he may consume.
The third-ranking Republican in the House tells CNN he now thinks it's time for the Attorney General to step down. I think that they would be well served by fresh leadership, GOP Congressman Adam Putnam told CNN. He did not distinguish himself in the hearing. There remains a cloud over the department. In the Senate, an influential conservative on judicial matters said he's wrestling with whether Alberto Gonzales should keep his job. Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama tells CNN the Attorney General should take time this weekend to think about it. Ask himself whether he can effectively reconstitute the Attorney General's office, and I'll be thinking about the same thing, said Sessions. If he feels like he cannot, then it would be best for the president and the country to resign. Sessions is usually a reliable Bush ally, but he's a former U.S. attorney who has become increasingly concerned the Justice Department is damaged by the fired prosecutors controversy and was openly frustrated Thursday when the Attorney General couldn't remember if he was at a key November meeting 10 days before the attorneys were fired.
Well, I guess I'm concerned about your recollection, really, because it's not that long ago. It was an important issue, and that's troubling to me.
GOP support for Gonzales is so limited, some Republicans who want him to stay say it's because the alternative, a confirmation hearing for a new Attorney General, could be worse.
If for some reason Alberto Gonzales is thrown overboard, it's not going to end the problem that the president has from a political standpoint. A newly emboldened Democrat majority who's going to continue to conduct investigations and try to gain political advantage the best they can.
There is no organized Republican effort to force the Attorney General out, but this weekend will be critical. Several key GOP senators say they will be reviewing transcripts and other information and may be more aggressive in calling for the Attorney General to resign if they in fact determined he is simply too damaged to stay on. Lou.
Dana, thank you. Dana Bash from Capitol Hill. More developments in that standoff at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. A local Houston television station now is reporting that a gunman barricaded in that building, Building 44, at the Johnson Space Center, has killed a hostage that he was holding and has killed himself. Those reports as SWAT officers surrounded Building 44 and closed off roads around that 1,600 sprawling NASA campus. Police and NASA officials do not know whether anyone other than the gunman is in that building, unable to determine how many employees were successful in exiting the building in the evacuation, or whether anyone in fact remains in that building. Police reported the gunman armed with a handgun and reports of 2 shots fired. Again, a local Houston television station now reporting that the gunman and one other person has been killed in this standoff. We will be coming to you with the very latest developments as soon as we can confirm these reports. NASA officials not yet able to confirm that, nor Houston local police able to confirm that to CNN. Coming up here next, the wife of a Chinese dissident sentenced to 10 years in prison is suing internet giant Yahoo. We'll tell you why. The nation pausing to mourn the victims of the shooting rampage at Virginia Tech. Chilling new details uncovered in the investigation. We'll have the very latest on that and a great deal more as we continue here. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is the AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan card. You know what's great about this card? Wherever you go, nationwide, your coverage travels with you. And that's just one of the many reasons you need the card you can trust. Because with AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plans, you can apply year-round, talk with personal health insurance advisors, and so much more. If you're turning 65 or older, or you've already enrolled in a Medicare supplement plan, call for this free information kit and Medicare guide. These are the only Medicare supplement insurance plans exclusively endorsed by AARP. These plans, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company, help cover some of your medical expenses not covered by Medicare alone. This could save you.
Entry, they did indeed determine that the suspect shot himself one time to the head. He appears to be deceased at this time. Also, on the same floor, there was one other hostage that was shot. We believe that may have occurred in the early minutes of this whole ordeal, and another hostage that was unharmed, taped, but unharmed, and being looked at by our paramedics. One hostage fatality, one hostage released, unharmed except for the fact that she was duct taped to a certain degree.
Captain, what's the relationship?
Hold on, let me get the follow-up. There were two people up there with the suspect, one female, one male. The male is deceased. The female was the one that was taped. She was, after the SWAT team members made entry, we had our paramedics check her. Question.
This is a spokesman for the Houston Police Department confirming that the gunman at Building 44 in the Johnson Space Center has killed one hostage and killed himself. The spokesman for the Houston Police Department saying that they believe that the killing of the hostage took place early in this incident, but those details are extremely scarce at this point. But again, the Houston Police Department confirming that the hostage and the gunman both have been killed. That is now confirmed. And one other hostage released, apparently unharmed. There has been no identification of either the gunman or the hostage that he took, nor the other hostage who is safe. We will continue our coverage of this as we get more information. And let's stay and just see if we can get some more information as the Houston Police Department spokesman continues.
I did not see anything as far as a note or anything up there at the scene, but I did not do a thorough investigation either. Like I said, that will be a part of the follow-up investigation. No, I do not have any names. I do not have any names or any identities at this time. Yes, ma'am. Just the female that I'm aware of. Hold on, guys. I can barely hear y'all because of the helicopters. My understanding was around the feet and the arms, but I don't want to go into details because I did not get to see that.
Where's that person right now, Captain?
You know, that's a better question for the investigators. I don't know exactly where they are or how far they've gone, but I'm sure that's something that'll be looked at. The question was, what other areas are we investigating or looking at? Yes, ma'am. Notification is part of our regular process. I can't tell you or confirm whether or not any family members, whether they be of the suspect or of the hostages, have been contacted or not. I don't know because I did not speak with her, nor was I able to speak with anybody who did speak with her, so we'll have to learn that later.
Where's the surviving hostage right now?
I'm sorry?
Where is the surviving hostage right now?
The one is being treated by paramedics, and I don't know if she'll be transported eventually to a hospital or if she'll be released here from the scene.
What kind of weapon?
The question is what kind of weapon. I can tell you it's a revolver, handgun. It appears to be like a 2-inch barrel or a snub nose might be the reference. It's either like a 38 or a 357, but I don't know for sure.
Only one weapon.
Yeah, only one.
Captain, can you talk about the shots that were fired? 2 initially, then you believe that the one hostage was killed early on, and then the fourth shot killed himself.
Yeah, let me explain that. The report to us was that there were 2 shots, and that's what caused us to respond to this scene. And we're believing that one of the hostages, the male who's deceased, was shot during that particular moment. Because from that point forward, we only have the other shot that was heard by our SWAT team members, and we believe that to be the suspect shooting himself.
What time was that, the second?
I don't have an exact on the time.
Can you tell me, are those victims, not just the one that is dead and the one that did survive, are they NASA employees or contractors?
No, I don't know if they're NASA employees or contract employees or what their status was. I can't tell you. I don't know.
Do you know the relationship, if any, with the gunman?
That was asked earlier about relationships. I don't know. It'll be a part of the investigation. You know, that'd be speculation on my part. If the person who originally reported the scene actually saw the suspect shoot another individual, I'm inclined to say no, because I believe we asked that earlier, and he indicated that he heard 2 shots, but he did not actually see anybody get shot. No, it's virtually impossible for me to try to describe the scene and the floor layout and everything. I'm just not that familiar with it.
So at this point, what is going on with the investigation?
At this point, the paramedics are working on the female who was taped. Our homicide investigators are en route to the scene. We're working with the FBI to do a thorough investigation, and we're going to leave it up to the investigators from this point.
Do the victims remain inside the building?
One does. The suspect and the other deceased individual are still inside, because we're obviously waiting for the medical examiner, homicide investigators, and some other people to make it to the scene. Yes, sir.
You're listening to Captain Dwayne Reddy, Captain Dwayne Reddy of the Houston Police Department, spokesman for the Houston Police Department, again, confirming that what has been approximately a 4-hour standoff with a gunman at the Johnson Space Center, Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center, a communications and technology and laboratory building at the Johnson Space Center, has killed 1 male hostage and himself. Another hostage, a female, is reportedly not seriously injured in any way, but is being treated by the medics at the scene and may be transported, but has not been shot and is safe. Captain Reddy also reporting that the bodies of both the gunman and the hostage he killed remain within Building 44. Neither the name of the gunman or either of the hostages, one deceased and one safe, has been released by either the Houston Police Department or NASA. We'll continue to follow this story as we monitor the developments there at the Johnson Space Center, but it appears that the hostage standoff has ended with 2 deaths, and we will be coming back to cover this as we monitor it for further developments in the minutes ahead here. The nation today mourned for the victims of the massacre at Virginia Tech. And at the school, students stood in silence to pay their respects. Brianna Kaler has our report from the Virginia Tech campus.
Bells tolled around Virginia and around the country today as the nation stopped to mourn the 32 victims of Monday's massacre at Virginia Tech. On the campus itself, hundreds marked a moment of silence at 12 noon. Grieving students and area residents brought flowers and candles to a memorial on the drill field in front of Norris Hall.
It's starting to heal. It's kind of a closure. It's just amazing, and to see the community together, to see all this orange and maroon when it's not a game day.
Hokey Hope Day, that's what Virginia Tech alum called it, asking people to wear the school's colors of orange and maroon. And they did just that, releasing balloons of the same colors into the sky. Across the nation, many Americans observed a moment of silence, including lawmakers on the floor of the U.S. Senate. Places like Boston, Las Vegas, and Baltimore, bells rang out in remembrance. In downtown Blacksburg, the grief was still raw, with residents openly weeping. Virginia Governor Tim Kaine declared this a day of mourning to honor victims of the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
This event this week, this horrible event, has touched every corner of the world.
Kaine spoke of the universality of grief at a prayer service at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. Some students there took turns reading the victims' names aloud, pausing for chimes between each one.
Kevin Granada, professor.
And at the end of the service, a spontaneous pep rally with students erupting into the Virginia Tech school cheer. It's a chant students here say has taken on a new meaning as a symbol of solidarity and strength, Lou.
And a very tough day, I know, for everyone. I can't tell you the number of people, Brianna, and colleagues that I've talked with this week who have said, even reporting on this story at a distance, how draining it has been, what an emotional week it has been, what a tragic week. I can only imagine what you and our other colleagues there, everyone covering this story, has gone through, let alone imagine the suffering at this tragedy at Virginia Tech. You've done an outstanding job, Brianna. We thank you very much. Brianna Keeler from Virginia Tech. Three of this country's top political analysts will join me here later. We'll be talking about the political impact of the Virginia Tech shootings, the declaration by Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid that the war in Iraq is lost, and we'll be talking about the future of Alberto Gonzales and the ravings of a man named Rove, and one of this country's biggest internet companies in court, charged with helping communist China put a leading political opponent in jail. Those stories and a great deal more straight ahead. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
I'm a mother of three and a grandmother. My husband, he said I was hot.
I haven't had this smoking hot body since I was in college.
You can't miss the results of the new Nutrisystem Nourish, the easy weight loss program that lets you eat great and lose weight.
I'm a 40-year-old mom, and I think I look better than ever.
Call or go online now to order and start losing weight today. Plus, you'll be eligible to get 2 full weeks of Nutrisystem meals free.
It's so simple. With Nutrisystem, if you can eat, you can lose weight.
Our secret is the breakthrough science of the glycemic advantage that separates good carbs from bad.
My husband loves my new body. In fact, he jokingly calls me his trophy wife.
Nutrisystem delivers every meal to your door and shipping is free.
I love it, I love it, I love it.
For about $10 a day, you'll enjoy perfectly portioned, absolutely delicious meals.
How can you argue with results like these?
Order today and you'll be eligible to receive an extra 14 breakfasts, 14 lunches, 14 dinners, and 14 desserts. 2 full weeks of food absolutely free. Call now.
At Coors, we have a responsibility to help prevent underage drinking. As a parent, I understand that responsibility. 75% of teens say parents are their #1 influence as they decide to drink or not. That's why Coors brings you mvparents.com, a website built by Search Institute, experts on youth development. Here you'll find tools to empower your teens to make the right decisions. So visit mvparents.com and know that we at Coors are as committed as you are to preventing underage drinking.
I need 480 tons of plaster. I need 70 more rolls of paper.
All small businesses have one thing in common. They need things.
We need to get 6 tickets for Tokyo.
We're open to helping meet your needs. That's why there's the American Express Business Gold Rewards Card. With no preset spending limit, you can get what you need, plus the rewards you deserve in return. By calling 1-888-298-OPEN or visiting us online, you can also get automatic discounts on the things you buy most.
I need to rent a car every week.
I need to ship 42 glass bowls.
We'll also show you how easily you can earn 100,000 points in your first year alone. Enough for things like 4 round-trip airline tickets or other rewards. Earn as many points as you can. They never expire.
I need a better way to buy what I need.
The American Express Business Gold Rewards Card. Call 1-888-298-OPEN or visit open.com/gold for yours, and we'll waive the fee for the first year.
Yahoo is tonight defending itself against charges it helped communist China to jail and torture a Chinese national citizen. The wife of a jailed Chinese dissident says Yahoo gave the Chinese government information about her husband's political writings. She also says Yahoo helped put her husband in jail for 10 years. Kitty Pilgrim has our report.
The Communist Chinese government sentenced Wen Xiaoning to 10 years in prison for his use of the internet in China. His wife, Yu Ling, came to the United States to sue Yahoo under U.S. law. She is returning to China this week. She says the information provided by Yahoo to the Chinese government helped put her husband in prison.
When I received the court verdict, I saw the paper everywhere is the Yahoo offered the information to Chinese government.
It's been a tough struggle. Wang Qiaoning was sentenced in 2002 and has been sitting in a Chinese prison for 5 years already. But Yu Ling's attorney says they only recently got the Chinese court sentencing documents.
That sentence, that decision, included in the 14 pages, had 9 pages itemizing the information that Yahoo provided that caused the prosecution. And Yahoo itself was mentioned 10 times in that decision by the Chinese court.
The complaint against Yahoo reads, defendants willingly provided Chinese officials with access to private email records, copies of email messages, email addresses, user IDs, and other identifying information. Defendants knowingly and willfully aided and abetted in the commission of torture and other major abuses violating international law. Yahoo defends the company policy, saying they must comply with Chinese laws.
All we know is they request information and not request, but force us to turn over that information as part of law. And then once we pass that over as required with threat of criminal penalties, we then don't hear anything about it.
Yahoo agrees he should be freed, but the company claims they didn't know about the case until Yu Ling came to the United States. Now, Yahoo claims the availability of Chinese citizens to use the internet promotes freedom. They call on the government, the U.S. government, to pressure the Chinese government, and they say they have no choice but to comply with Chinese laws until international pressure forces the Chinese to change those laws. Lou?
Effectively saying there's no room for morality or ethics, decency in business?
It's not our job, basically, is what they say.
Thank you very much, Kitty Pilgrim. Up next, the very latest on the Johnson Space Center shooting. We'll be joined by Miles O'Brien as more developments are coming in that Johnson Space Center standoff in which one gunman took 2 hostages. One of those hostages killed, the gunman killing himself. We'll have the very latest for you from Johnson Space Center. I'll also be joined by 3 of this country's best political analysts and strategists on all of the week's top political issues, of which there are many. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Here's what people are saying about OsteoBiflex, the #1 doctor-recommended joint care brand.
I'm 77 years old, and I work as a waitress, and if it weren't for OsteoBiflex, I just couldn't do it.
My doctor recommended I take OsteoBiflex, and it's great. It really works for me.
I'm amazed at the results I've seen from my patients taking OsteoBiflex.
OsteoBiflex has given me mobility. I wasn't getting that crunching, grinding sound in my joints.
Not only did it stop the discomfort, but it gave me full mobility again.
The glucosamine and chondroitin, as found in OsteoBiflex, actually lubricates and cushions your joints to provide free movement, mobility, and comfort. And only OsteoBiflex has Joint Shield with 5-Loxin. Taking 5-Loxin showed improvement in joint comfort within 7 days.
OsteoBiflex has given me a whole new life.
For a $3 off coupon, go to osteobiflex.com right now. OsteoBiflex is available wherever quality vitamins and supplements are sold.
It fuels our lives and creates the products we depend on. It powers our workforce. It brings us home and gives us warmth. It lets us travel the earth and reach for the sky. Vital for life. Too precious to waste. Oil and natural gas. Together, let's use it wisely. Learn more at energytomorrow.org.
What do you get when a financial firm with 70,000 people in 50 countries takes the time to understand your needs as if it's just the 2 of you? Could it be the most powerful 2-person financial firm in the world? You and us, UBS.
Newsmakers brought to you by UBS, a global financial firm with the heart and soul of a two-person organization. You and us.
A gunman barricaded in a building at the Johnson Space Center in Houston has killed one of two hostages that he was holding and himself. Miles O'Brien joins me now and has the very latest for us. Miles?
Lou, it was about a 4-hour ordeal. It was a tense standoff, in which case police never really had an opportunity to communicate with the gunman. It began, according to employees, as a contract employee with a firm called Jacobs Engineering entered into the building, a building he had free access to, and took two hostages, fired two shots, apparently to causing no injury, at least initially. That caused the building to be cleared out. That led to that 4-hour barricade situation, and Houston police pick it up from there.
While they were trying to establish communication, they did hear one additional gunshot. Believing that the suspect may have shot himself, the decision was made to make entry. As our SWAT team members made entry, they did indeed determine that the suspect shot himself one time to the head. He appears to be deceased at this time. Also, on the same floor, there was one other hostage that was shot. We believe that may have occurred in the early minutes of this whole ordeal. And another hostage that was unharmed, taped, but unharmed, and being looked at by our paramedics.
So there you have it. The event is over tragically, we should say. One hostage with a horrifying tale to tell. The other hostage, in this case, deceased as a result of this gunman, the gunman taking his own life, and all of it transpiring without the SWAT team or the negotiators having any opportunity to communicate with him. Given all that has transpired this past week in Blacksburg, Virginia, certainly could have been worse, but terribly tragic situation. And NASA officials saying today, Lou, that they will be scrubbing and looking very closely at all of their security procedures to see if there's something they could have done to prevent this. But the fact is, as you well know, Lou, from being there, if you have an employee badge or a contractor badge there, you basically can breeze through security at the Johnson Space Center.
Miles, thanks for a terrific job of reporting on this. And as you say, against the backdrop of the terrible tragedy at Virginia Tech at Blacksburg, Virginia, and also on this day, which marks the 8th anniversary of the Columbine shooting, we want to also point out to our viewers that as of right now, neither NASA nor the Houston Police Department has identified either the gunman or the two hostages taken in this standoff that, as Miles O'Brien just reported, lasted just about 4 hours. Miles, thank you very much. Miles O'Brien. Joining me now, Ed Rollins. He's former White House political director, Republican strategist, New York Daily News columnist, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Michael Goodwin, Democratic strategist, and good guy Hank Scheinkoff. Thank you all for being here. Let's begin with what does this do to the national political psyche on this, the 8th anniversary of Columbine, the horrible tragedy at Blacksburg, and now the insanity of this shooting and hostage taking at Johnson Space Center. Hank?
All it does is add to a general sense by the public that things are out of control. They're out of control in Washington. They're out of control in our streets. Whether there's crime or not is not the issue. Things are out of control, and no one's doing anything about it. That's what people will be feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the gun control is always an issue in these times, but I think people, when they step back, they realize it's deeper than gun control. There's some kind of angst and anger in our society that causes these sorts of things, and I don't think we're all held accountable or anything like that, but I think it's not simply something a law can fix.
You had this tragedy with this great institution, Virginia Tech, that we all basically have struggled and suffered with this week, and obviously the shooter is a tragic figure. I mean, as disastrous as his event was, how does he get through the system? I think the critical thing here is two decisions this week. Obviously, the incident that happened there, and obviously the Supreme Court decision is going to force for us Republicans to debate some very significant issues that which are gun control and the whole abortion issue. And I think it gets them thrown back into the presidential race with a great fury.
And Hank, as we watched that incredible testimony by the Attorney General before the Senate Judiciary Committee. The Attorney General, great criticism because one of his top aides announced that she would take the Fifth Amendment. He did almost as well using don't recall, what was it, 64 times?
Absurd for the nation's chief law enforcement officer to be acting and speaking the language of someone who was appearing before a panel of investigating him. Kind of ridiculous. He was like a little boy on a scavenger hunt trying to pick up pieces of the clues as he went along with no clear way to find himself out of the problem.
Senator Jeff Sessions, a Republican stalwart, if there is one, he looked like he couldn't stand the smell in the room.
Right. Yeah, I think the Republicans are really suffering from Alberto Gonzales, and they know it. I think in some ways they're more eager to get rid of him than the Democrats are. The Democrats like having him as a piñata. They can just hammer on and make Bush look bad and make the whole administration look bad, whereas the Republicans know he's a millstone that's going to drag them down in 2008.
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the issue here is here's a man who obviously may be a decent man, maybe a friend of the president, but he's incompetent. And I think the country is getting another view of a Republican incompetency at a very important agency, and the White House all saying, I don't care, I stand behind him. And I think day by day, drip by drip, that hurts us and hurts us severely.
I'm going to do something mean. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you where you see great competency in this government right now.
I have to assume, having spent 25 years of my life in government, there's a lot of very good people.
Oh, no, I'm not asking that.
You're asking me where in this government do I find... I don't find it in the White House. I don't find it in Justice. I don't find it in DOD today, although I think our men and women who are fighting in Iraq are doing the best they can.
Oh, absolutely.
Under very adverse...
Troops are outstanding.
But there's just no big leadership, and I think it all starts right at the top.
We're going to come back and pursue that line of questioning in just a moment. We'll be right back. But first, here's Wolf Blitzer to tell us what's coming up on the Situation Room. Wolf.
Thanks very much, Lou. The family of the Virginia Tech gunmen speaking out tonight. They're speaking of sorrow and heartbreak and what they're doing for the victims' families. Also, I'll be speaking with the New York Times Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Thomas Friedman. He's written extensively about the war in Iraq. He's visited there several times. Does he think the war can be won? The Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid says no, and tonight he's under fire from the Bush administration and some congressional colleagues. All that, Lou, coming up right here in the Situation Room.
Well, thank you very much. And when we come back, we'll be having more of our lighthearted discussion with our political panel. Stay with us.
Larry King tonight, inside the mind of the Virginia Tech killer with his sweet mate and Dr. Phil. Larry King, tonight 9 Eastern, only on CNN.
Mattress World's having a good, better, best sale.
Get a twin, full, queen, or king for one low price.
Choose this one for just $99 each piece.
Go better for just $169 each piece.
Or best for just $239 each piece.
And get no interest, no payments for 1 full year.
If we can't beat any price on any comparable mattress, then the mattress is free.
To sleep like a baby. Mattress World.
Mattress World, 185th and Cornell, next to Burger King.
Buick and Fine Living Network invites you to get on the course and enjoy a scenic journey in pursuit of the world's great golf getaways. Available only on demand from Comcast. You'll travel from the rolling hills of Scotland and Ireland to America's most beautiful and challenging greens. Great Golf Getaways is an inspiring and informative excursion any avid golfer will not want to miss, and it's brought to you courtesy of Buick. To access from your remote control, press 889 GM Showroom and then Buick.
I hope the sea would be as turquoise as my dreams.
I hope the water held the wonders I had foreseen.
I hope the beaches would stretch as far as my imagination.
I hope the Caribbean would be as warm as my expectations.
I hope the time would be as precious as it seemed.
I hope the moments would be as magical as my dreams.
I hope the views would be as wondrous as my visions.
I hope the journey would fill my soul with inspiration.
I imagined it would be perfect.
It was.
Scalpel. Sponge. I'm picking De La Hoya.
Doctor, I'm picking Mayweather.
It's Mayweather! It's De La Hoya!
Roger that, I'm picking Mayweather.
It's De La Hoya!
The world is talking.
Crowd's getting their money's worth in Vegas.
De La Hoya Mayweather. The world awaits. Who are you picking?
Mayweather, absolutely.
De La Hoya, definitely.
Order De La Hoya versus Mayweather, live May 5th on Events in Demand.
CNN special primetime coverage tonight beginning at 7.
The Virginia Tech massacre, all the warning signs were there. So why did the system fail?
At 8.
My exclusive interview with a wounded survivor in a classroom where 10 people died.
Then at 9, Dr. Phil on how survivors and families of victims get through the healing process. And at 10,
defining moments, unforgettable stories, heroes of a massacre.
CNN's primetime coverage begins tonight, 7 Eastern.
We're back with our panel. Hank Scheinkoff, I want to ask you, does Alberto Gonzalez survive?
If he's smart, he leaves on Monday morning to help his brother Republicans and to help this president.
Michael?
No, I don't think he survived. It's just a question of how long. I mean, I think it's clearly, right now, I think he's actually useful to the administration because to the extent that he's out there taking a beating, we're not talking about Iraq, which is what the country should be talking about. And so I think that the Bush is letting him take the hits.
I think he should go. I said this on the show a number of weeks ago. I think he should have volunteered to go. He can't lead the Justice Department. He can't basically be a part of this administration and add any credibility. But I don't think the president's going to ask him for his resignation. I don't think he's going to offer it. So I expect him to basically hunker down and fight through this thing.
Well, fighting through this thing, Senator Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader this week, saying the war in Iraq is lost. Straight out declaration. What do you think?
I think it's a disastrous thing for the Majority Leader of the Senate to say. You may say that in private, you may say that in the cloakroom, but you certainly don't stand up and say that when you still got men and women getting up every day, fighting and obeying the orders of this government to try and create a democracy a long ways away. You may disagree on the war, but to stand up and make that kind of statement is not an act of courage.
Yeah, Reid from time to time just pops off in really kind of inexplicable ways, and this is one of them. I mean, what does he do now? What does he say after that? How does he fund the war if he declares it a loss? I mean, what does he say to the military? It's a mistake to say that, as Ed said publicly.
Democratic strategist Hank Scheinkoff.
Now that he has put the Democrats in a position where they've got to force this to conclusion, you better pray that he somehow manufactures additional Democratic senators to make that happen, because at 51-49, not likely they can pull that off so fast.
But I'm not sure what it is he wants to pull off now. It sounds like he wants to defund the military entirely in Iraq.
That's how Nixon was forced to get us out of Vietnam. That probably is what happens here. But remember, the dynamics and setup of the Senate were entirely different. There were more Democrats to do it.
Well, speaking of popping off, Senator John McCain declaring that Baghdad is safe, making a ditty out of the idea of bombing Iran. What in the world is he thinking about?
Well, John's campaign has had a terrible 3 or 4 months. I can't think of any modern presidential campaign that's gone as downward as his has. He's out of money. He certainly has lost a lot of traction, and the guy that was the inevitable nominee has got to really fight now to get back in the game. I think John is got to get very programmed and really figure out what it is that he wants to do. He's running for a 3rd Bush term. And this country is not going to give Bush a 3rd term with John McCain or anybody else.
Well, I mean, and I think what's interesting, talking about Harry Reid popping off, John McCain has a reputation as a maverick. He says this was a joke, but it's a totally inappropriate joke for a presidential candidate. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is, and he can't get away with that in the campaign now.
Save the money and buy a house.
Well, what should Senator Barack Obama be buying a house? A lot of people right now at the end of this week are trying to divine what in the world he meant, comparing the violence at Virginia Tech to verbal violence.
He's also wrong. There's something wrong with people in public life who kept saying things that the public is going to reject. The basic rule of rational political discourse is to do that which the public would like you to do, say that which they would like you to say, to win them over, not to alienate them. So we have 3 alienating gestures all in 1 week. Pretty significant.
Well, let's go to someone who we are reliably assured, at least in years past, was a certifiable political genius. Karl Rove saying in a speech this week that we are foolish if we think we can turn away from this threat and draw inward, and they will not come. Saying very clearly that if we lose, they will follow in Iraq to the United States. You want to sort that one out for me?
That's also an absurd statement. We basically are defending our borders every single day against terrorists here. That's the FBI's job. That's the police department's job. That's the intelligence network. Fighting in Iraq was to basically create a democracy, and that's what's gone badly.
Well, look, I mean, a lot of people in the military say that is the Republican argument, that's why Iraq matters, because if we lose there, then we set up a place. Whether they follow us, I think we can all agree that something terrible will happen in Iraq.
My problem with if we lose there, Senator Reid saying that we've lost there, however you construct it. This government, this administration, this leadership has not told us what victory looks like in Iraq, nor have they explained how we will know if we do win or how we will know if we have lost.
Well, I think the basic argument that Bush has made is that when Iraq can defend itself and govern itself, that will be the test. It's not close to it, and the way we're going, it's disappearing down the distance, not coming closer.
It's not fair to the men and women who are there to basically say they're losing a war. They're in a police action. They're not fighting a war anymore, and I think to a certain extent
that's for saying that, because
it's a great disservice to them.
We have not heard this Democratic Congress, when they were ranking Democrats on so many committees, we have not heard the Democratic leadership over these past several years come forward with an alternative here. This has been this episode in American history. I believe General William Odom will be proved exactly right in his characterization of our involvement in Iraq. But don't the Democrats have to come up now, particularly with a strategy going forward, especially as we enter the 2008 election?
There is no leadership on both sides of the aisle that can speak to the American people in a way that makes sense, because no one knows what to do. They've never confronted anything like this before.
And the four of us are going to resolve over the course of this weekend to find a way to have a lighter and brighter discussion about something.
Martinis before in the green room before the show starts.
Well, good for you. Thank you very much. Ed Rollins.